And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on February the 3rd, 2026. It's February, thank goodness. And it is 8:30 and the chair calls this meeting to order. And Mayor McKay, would you like to read our new land acknowledgement?
Thank you. This month, Wolfville Council will begin to read a statement of recognition of the historic contributions of African Nova Scotians as part of our land acknowledgement. So, first time. The town of Wolfville acknowledges that we are located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. As a town committed to reconciliation and respectful governance, we ask that all who live, work, and gather here do so with the 7 sacred teachings in mind: truth, honesty, love, courage, respect, wisdom, and humility. These teachings guide us to build a community rooted in understanding, fairness, care for one another, and for the land. Please pause for a moment of reflection. How can we be good guests on this land? We'd also like to do our recognition of historic contributions. We acknowledge the histories, contributions, the legacies of African Nova Scotian people who have shared these lands for over 400 years. And we acknowledge the shared ancestry of all people of African descent in Nova Scotia. It is timely that we've read this new land acknowledgement and the recognition of African Nova Scotians. February marks African Heritage Month, and this year's African Heritage Month provincial time is strengthen unity, moving forward with purpose, prosperity, power, and progress. African Heritage Month provides us an opportunity for all Nova Scotians to learn, reflect, and celebrate the history, culture, achievements, and contributions of people of African descent, past and present. To celebrate this opportunity, the town of Wolfville is honored to share the work of Acadia students who were supported by Dr. Marjorie Lewis to create a poster series to connect all of us with the lives and legacies of those who made a significant impact on this province. The posters will be shared at Town Hall, and they will be featured on the Monday, February 23rd at Soups and Sides. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mayor McKay. Okay, we're moving on to approval of the agenda. CEO, are there any changes or additions?
There are no changes or additions.
Okay, seeing that. I guess so, yeah.
Do we have to add something for the audit, for the appointing the auditors?
That's on.
No, that'll go straight to council on the 17th. Yeah.
Yep, okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no changes or addition, the agenda is circulated, approved as circulated. And then we move on to the minutes. Approval of the minutes, Committee of the Whole minutes, January 13th, 2026. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, those are also approved as circulated. Moving on to the Committee of the Whole in-camera minutes, January 13th, 2026. Errors or omissions? Seeing none, those are approved as circulated. At this time, if anyone around the table would like to declare a conflict of interest, they may do so now. Seeing none, we will move on. This is kind of a rarity. We don't have any presentations this morning, so checking it off. And we're moving on to public input. I don't see anyone in the gallery, but I'll check to see if there's anyone online. There is no one online. So there will be no public input. We are moving along. So we are moving on to staff reports for discussion, RFD 004-2026, the Tidal Transit operating 2026 operating capital budget. CAO, are you on right now?
I'll speak to that. Thank you very much,
Thank
Chair.
you.
So I think I have the 3 of the next 4 items. So this is where the efficiency of the meeting ends. Yeah. Laura, can I ask you to put the IRs up on the screen? All right, so the town of Wolfville provides public transportation service through Tidal Transit, which you'd be more familiar hearing the moniker of King's Transit. Tidal Transit, its new name as of quite recently. Each year, partnering municipalities must approve an operating and capital budget for Tidal Transit through the Valley Regional Services Board. So that's a board that after a few years of cooperation was struck by all the participating councils in June of this past year. So that board has the overall authority for both Tidal Transit and Valley Waste Management. Tidal Transit staff have prepared a budget that it's been reviewed and commented on by the CAO's working group, which is made up of all the CAOs from all the participating municipalities. And that budget is now before you for your consideration to give direction to your board member on the Valley Regional Services Board, which is Mayor McKay. In previous years, this process was reversed. If you're thinking that it looks a little different, in previous years, the board would make a recommendation to municipalities for budget approval. Under the new intermunicipal services agreement, the board itself, the Valley Regional Services Board, has authority over the budget of both Valley Waste and Tidal Transit. So the buck stops with them, so to speak. So with that in mind, it requires us to have guidance and authorization from councils to the board member prior to the board vote, which is what we're doing here today. So Tidal Transit's proposed budget this year has a total operating contribution of $383,160 and a total capital contribution of $33,880 for the town of Wolfville. This is an increase of about $110,000 or 36% on previous years. If it seems like that's a large increase, it's because it is. It's the single largest increase that we've had in recent memory on transit services, and that's driven by a few key factors. Falling fare revenues due to some of the challenges with ridership, increased staffing and maintenance costs, repair what can be reasonably classified as a failing fleet, and increased administrative costs for marketing, and finally increased capital contributions to municipal partners. On Friday, I circulated, in addition to this RFD, some commentary and a business plan essentially provided by Tidal Transit that explains in a bit more detail its financial situation and why the change in budget is being requested. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. But I'll also highlight a couple of other key things and then open it up for questions. Tidal Transit requires an investment in the organization and the fleet to be able to stabilize the service. That's the main driver behind this increase in requested increase in funding. As it stands right now, there are 13 buses in the fleet. Only 7 are actually on the road at any given time due to the age and condition of the fleet. What this budget does is authorizes and funds the purchase of 7 new hybrid buses 2 years out, which will replace the majority of the fleet. And then it plans for additional purchase of new buses I think it's 2 years after that, and then 2 years after that. So that over the course of the next 5 to 7 years, we have essentially an entirely new fleet. That's been timed out and priced out in a way that is reasonably affordable for the funders, but also reinvests in the service so that we can try to maintain some level of stability so that ridership doesn't, fall off a cliff, and which can be quite detrimental to a transit service. The more riders we lose, the less likely they are to return as they figure out other means of transportation. The CAO's group has worked quite diligently with Tidal Transit through various budget iterations to try to come to something that is both stabilizing for Tidal Transit and reasonably affordable for the municipal partners. And that's what this is in front of you. There's been a lot of discussion at the board table and among the administrators responsible for the service to try to come to this point. And this is where it's landed. So I think I'll stop there. and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Glenn, for that presentation. I'll open it up to council to see if there are any questions. Council Palmer?
Uh, Thank you, CEO Horn. I know it's not exactly what you're looking, not the question you're looking for, but where does Tidal stand on their app? You know where that is? Because it seems to me that's key. I know they're having problems with the old iron with
Yeah.
I totally understand that, but where are they with the app? And that seemed to be a big bugaboo that they were having.
Yeah, so the app is, I can't tell you specifically where they are with the app. Maybe Mayor McKay might have a better insight, but it is still priority. It is still in the works and they are still working on it. I don't know exactly where it stands. Do you?
Yeah, I can't remember either exactly what it was. I know the last I heard it was almost ready, so, but I haven't, should have asked the person who asked me about it, which who I saw last night, but no, I don't know exactly where it is either, but we'll follow up.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you. I'd just like an opinion. My sense is that King's Transit in the end of its iteration was under management that just kind of did what they had to do. And now under Megan, there's some energy and desire to make things work. Would I be right in assuming that?
I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is the critical underinvestment in King's Transit over a number of years. And I don't think that's not pointing the finger at any municipalities or individuals or anything of that nature. But I think what we're seeing based on the condition of the fleet and the challenges that we're experiencing now is that's coming a bit to a boiling point. That's been known to us. We've received Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program funding to replace the fleet, and have been working through that for a few years. So I think it's a matter of organizational transition and some underinvestment over a number of years that we are where we are, and now we have to start to climb out. And the first rule of getting out of a hole is to stop digging. So it's that's what this is proposing to do.
Mayor McNick?
Can I build on to your answer? So I've been sitting around King's Transit for a smidgen of time now. And I would say we're in a perfect positive storm. I think that the people around the board table are looking to invest in King's Tidal Transit. I think the new name, the new way it's being governed, the new governance that we have in place. And I think Meg brings a passion for transit in a way no others do. So I think we're in a great place to get out of the hole that Glenn said we were in. We're getting out and move forward. Yeah. And the name actually was actually this, I'm not sure if you were there for the discussion of the new name, but it was basically the wave of change, right? The way it came in, everything was changing, and it was a positive reflection on what's coming forward.
Great, thanks.
Councillor Button?
I just had a question about sort of the way the IMSA works in terms of the town of Digby opted out of their contribution to King's Transit. And I assumed that this was going to go up this year, but I thought that the town of Digby not being involved would have been part of the reason why the cost went up for the other municipalities, but it's not listed. So how are they making up for that loss if it's, unless it is mildly factored into this, but there was nothing about the town of Digby's not being involved with the reason that the budgets went up. And I was just wondering why that is.
Yeah, excellent question. I can't speak exactly, but I can surmise as to what that the rationale would be for that. The town of Digby, sorry, I'll take a step back. The budgets for King's Transit are shared out to the municipal partners based on a formula of population assessment and route length. So in all three of those factors, the town of Digby would be a relatively small proportion in comparative size to Annapolis and Kings County and all the partners there within. So they're leaving the partnership would be a relatively small change in overall budget, just based on how much is actually invested into the town of Digby as part of the transit service to begin with. And then any remaining costs that needed to be, like, for instance, any of the fixed costs that need to be further shared, they would occupy a very small share of that to begin with. So then once you share that out among the other 7 partners on a proportionate basis, it would make a pretty marginal difference in the overall cost for any individual partner.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, as you know, I often live under a rock, so I wasn't aware, where's Cornwallis Park?
Just south of Annapolis Royal. On
Oh,
Highway
so
1.
it's the town of Cornwallis and it's the park inside only.
It's a former military base.
Right.
It's a former military station.
Okay, why do they deserve a heated bus exchange?
That's for an operational requirement when we have a fleet going into Annapolis Royal, to be able to service that end of the service area. We need additional accommodations and facility, if you will, to be able to service buses in that area.
Right.
Then turn them around and send them back.
Okay.
Councillor Palmer?
So we got an increase this year, and the new buses are coming in 28 or 27, 28.
7, I believe, is what it says here. Just give me one moment. New buses are in 27, 28.
27, 28. And then we're going to get another bump of our operating costs then.
So the way that we've built this budget right now, and things can always change, is that we're looking at 34-ish% increase this year. And the way that the capital budget is built from here on out, we're looking at much more reasonable cost increase. What's been projected year over year is about 2% a year for the next 5 years.
And the buses are ordered.
The buses, procurement is underway for the buses.
Thank you.
Mayor McKay?
Yeah, it's one of those cyclical things, I think. So we have underinvested in tidal transit for decades. The buses fall apart. I mean, if you follow their social media and our social media, we can see that they cancel buses all of the time because they can't keep them on the road. But we did approve at the last board meeting, I think, an additional mechanic.
Yeah.
So operational costs keep going up because you keep needing more people to keep them on the road. So now it's time to invest in some capital and put them steadily on the road, and hopefully operating costs will come back down to as they should be.
I just have one comment or question. The increase of 36%, I understand, because we need to stabilize and we need to invest in our future. And as Mayor McKay said, it's been totally underinvested in the last little while. We need to rebuild. As we know, the transit system is very important to many people. Do you expect this increase to continue for a while, or as a trend, or is this I know you can't really predict, but is there what's your opinion?
What's projected in the models is much more marginal increases year over year. So looking at about 2% increase on capital each year over the next 5.
Okay, too.
And then somewhere between 2% increase, and actually what's projected in 28, 29 is a 6.8% decrease in operating over the course of the next 5 years on both sides. So we are projecting much more increases, but much more, marginal increases over the course of the next 5 years. Slap onto that a giant caveat of things do happen. We're operating large vehicles all over Kings and Annapolis County every day. So there's always an element of risk that, we turn the page on a week and we're into a different financial situation.
Thank you. I guess with all of this investment and everything, our hope is to increase ridership and obviously increase revenue. So hopefully we'll see that because that's a large source of the revenue. So, all right.
If I can just add, Chair, just because on the reliability factor. So operationally, one of the initiatives that's going to be moving forward this year isn't to change any routes, but to review the routes so that whether it be for frequency or any of those other factors, try to make the routes more reliable than they currently are. Because again, reliability is a huge factor on whether or not people actually use the bus. So there'll be an effort to increase reliability across the existing routes this year.
Okay, thank you.
I can give
Mayor
you an
McKay?
yeah, I can give you an update on the app. I sent it quickly to Meg here. She says they are using Translock for bus tracking right now and Hotspot for ticket sales. Once the budget is approved, they'll move forward with other technology that will hopefully be launched in the summer. The ISIP scope just changed and slowed us down a bit, but she's ready to get that moving. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor McKay, and thank you for that efficiency, Meg and Mayor McKay. So that is quite impressive. Thank you very much. Yes, up to the minute news here, right? You've got the first information. All right, anything else, Mayor McKay, that you know? Okay, so I'm looking around. I don't see any more questions. There is a motion.
Go for it.
Yep.
I would move that council approve the proposed 2026-27. Oh, wrong one.
Just the committee
Let's
will
go
report
back.
for the council.
Let's go back to the one that we're talking about, instead of Valley Ways. Instead of Valley Ways,
get
let's talk, yeah. I would move that council, the committee of the whole forward the following motion to council for decision. That council approve the proposed 2026-27 tidal transit operating and capital budgets and authorize the town's representatives on the Valley Regional Services Board to support the budgets.
And can I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Are there any questions on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. And now we are moving on to RFD 005, 2026, Valley Waste 2026-27 Operating and Capital Budget. CAA Horn.
Thank you very much. So Valley Waste is the other entity that is within the Valley Regional Services Board. So I won't go over the governance piece that I went over with Tidal Transit. It's all the same for Valley Waste. In the instance of Valley Waste, it's a little bit of a different story. This budget represents for Valley Waste as an organization, the budget represents an increase of about $1.3 million from last fiscal year. And that's driven by an increase in curbside collection services, an increase in landfill costs, an increase in employee compensation, but an overall decrease in the elimination of spring and fall cleanup services. I just want to pause on that one for a second because I know that's important to the town here in Wolfville. So as part of the new collection contract, rather than having 2 events a year where bulky waste is collected, 2 items of bulky waste will be collected on every collection. So every second Friday collection, 2 items of bulky waste will be collected from all residents. So that's an overall service increase. Mind you, we know that there will be a little bit of change management involved with that within the town due to the student population and certain behaviors and trends that we see with move in and move out. So I just want to pause on that to make sure that that was clear that change in service is planned for April 1st. Other notable changes in revenue include an increase in tipping fees, so 5% increase in all of the tipping fees across the scales are in this budget. An increase in sale of materials, but the offsetting piece and why our contribution to Valley Waste in this budget is actually falling is offset revenue due to extended producer responsibility. So now through the EPR regulations, circular material, the industry now represented by Circular Materials is responsible for all of those items, recyclable items in the waste streams. So they are paying Valley Waste to collect those materials, and that's the offsetting revenue that is actually resulting while the overall budget is increasing, all municipal contributions to that budget are decreasing. So what that looks like in the town of Wolfville is this represents a 19% decrease compared to last year's budget. So in real numbers, That's town's contribution based on this budget is 527,766. And 22,355 for capital, for a total of $550,000, $121. Get that third cup of coffee, and I'll be able to get through that. So that is just under a 20% decrease from last year. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions, be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, CAO Horn. Are there any questions on this report from council? Councillor Palmer.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to those guys, Valley Waste. I think they do a very good job overall. I think that's how they handle that storms, everything. I'm pretty impressed with how well that works. But the question I'd have come May, when all the students move out, who's going to pay for the collection of all that curbside stuff? Because that's not a chance that's going to be able to go on. Well, maybe there's a chance. I just don't see it.
So
I guess there's a chance. There's always a chance.
Yeah. So we're communicating right now with landlords to make sure that they're aware that this change is forthcoming. Valley Waste is also communicating. This year will be a bit of a test year to see how things actually roll out. What I observe when students or anybody who's leaving a rental property, but particularly students, a lot lands on the front lawn that really ought not to. But before the collection actually occurs, a lot is actually scooped up by other means. I'll say informally diverted from the waste stream. So once that occurs as well, will items be within the Valley Waste number to simply collect? Because it's two items per unit. So in the same way that each unit, so if you have a house with 4 units in it, and each one of those units is permitted their bag limit for garbage, permitted their bag limit for recyclables and whatnot that Valley Waste collects as a normal residential collection. It's two per those units as well. So if you have 4 units in a building and there's 8 items of bulky waste on the lawn or at the curb, then Valley Waste ought to be collecting it in their normal course of collection. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out through this year. But to answer your question directly, Councillor, Valley Waste does not do any additional service for students for anything that's put to the curbside by students or otherwise. That's not part of their residential collection program. So if we do find ourselves in a situation where something more needs to be done, that'll be at the cost of the town.
Just looking forward, our collection versus graduation weekend. Does we know how that lands?
Jones.
I don't know either. I just saying because we want the town looking as good as we can for graduation. Obviously, I mean that's a big event here in town.
Yeah.
So it's just something we should look forward for.
I mean, I am confident that we can, message that also. This is an increase of service to everybody in the community. So every 2 weeks, I mean, I've heard a lot of good feedback on that when, so I think that if we message it properly, they should be able to do it. It is.
It's a great service.
It's a great service. So, yeah. Yes, no, for sure. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I had a lot of technical questions and I don't think it's fair to ask the CAO those questions. So do I have permission? Do I have permission to go straight to the board, or who should I direct those questions?
If you want to provide those questions to me, then I can have them answered and then provide all the responses back to all of council.
That's good.
Thank you, Councillor Williams and CAO. Councillor Butler.
Just to comment mostly about the 2-item every 2 weeks or every cleanup. My building is over the moon because we have no front lawn for one thing, and it's mostly seniors. And to try to gather all that stuff twice a year, and I've been sitting on a broken desk chair now since the fall cleanup, and we have no storage. So in order to keep those pieces for 6 months, it's it's very difficult. So I'm very excited. My whole building is excited. I've been stopped. They don't normally talk to me, but they have mentioned this. Somehow they heard it through the grapevine that this was happening, and they're all very excited, and they're starting to get their little pieces all set to go. So I just want to say I think that is a great addition to the service level.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Mayor McKay.
Yeah, I too am looking forward to the two collection. I'm the same as Councillor Palmer. I think over the last couple of years, we've had someone or paid someone to go around to our core spaces to clean up
We've done it
the
ourselves.
leftovers. We've done it ourselves.
Yeah.
So appreciate the staff doing that because it is nice to have the town looking nice during graduation time. I just want to give both Tidal Transit and Valley Waste a shout out for their budgets. They've been working really closely together in this new arrangement with the Valley Regional Services Board, right? Got to get all the acronyms. I got to get them back in my brain again. Have been really working well together, and they're sharing staff and all those things. So the efficiencies that we hope for are there. I also just want to say Valley Waste too has been put some money into their capital budget this year to improve their safety because they had some fires, and because of the increase in things coming in, their spaces are small and people can't maneuver quite well. So they're also putting safety in their forefront. So give them a shout out.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions about this? Okay, I don't see anyone. There is a motion. Councillor Palmer, would you like to do this one since you started it already?
I would move that Committee of the Whole forward the following motion to council for decision. The council approve the proposed 26-27 Valley Waste Resource Management operating and capital budgets and authorize the town's representative on the Valley Regional Services Board to support the budgets.
Thank you very much, Councillor Palmer. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Elliott, thank you so much. The motion is on the floor. Are there any questions related to the motion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on to RFD 006-2025 Grants to Organization. CEO, it's your turn again.
Okay. And this one off to our Manager of Community Development, Nick Zamora. So he'll be joining us.
Okay, sorry about that. Welcome, Nick. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Is this on?
A little closer, maybe. It doesn't, sounds kind of quiet.
Can you hear me? No? There you go. It's on? Okay. Morning, everyone, Mayor, Council, CAO. I just, up front, I just wanted to address the way the package was submitted. There's been some questions and just some conversation about like what was submitted was the old or the existing policy and then the new policy. And I understand I've been sort of living with this, so I'm very familiar with the existing policy, and I do acknowledge and appreciate that it's a little confusing to look back and forth between those two documents, but we'll walk through the major changes that are made. This is a revision of the existing policy, which is we're not starting from scratch. So that created a little bit of just trickiness in updating it. So I do think it would be helpful to focus on the policy piece and not so much the appendices that are included. Those could even potentially be taken right out of the policy. There's other existing policy or other municipalities have grants similar policies that don't have all the evaluation sheets and the extra stuff that's kind of in our policy. So I think it will be helpful to focus on the policy piece, why we're making the changes. This is meant to guide how the town is able to provide funding to community organizations that help increase capacity of the town and the vibrancy of our community. So just with that in mind, we'll go through. And so I think it might also be helpful to think of this as kind of like the back end of the program and how like a guide. There are other things that will exist outside of the policy, such as applicant packages and the guidelines for each of the programs. Those will be facing to folks that would apply for these programs. This policy is meant to guide how we sort of administer that, if that makes sense. Any questions or comments on that before we go through? Okay. So the summary here of the RFD, I'll just sort of skip through the background, but as we know, there's an existing policy for grants to organizations. We had a discussion in council in March of 2025 about the strategic partnership program in particular, and how council hasn't had a great chance to sort of have a lot of input into who those strategic partners are and make sure that they align with the current council's strategic priorities and plan. So that's the main reason we're going through this exercise. So just at the bottom of this first page is sort of outlines the major changes. Oh, do I control this? Yeah. So proposed revisions address the issue by offsetting the selection of strategic partners by 1 year from the election of new council. So we're sort of at that point now. In April of 2025, the previous strategic partners were kept in place, and we did have an opportunity to add, I believe it was only 2, that's an error that it says 3, but 2 new partners were added to allow time for us to go through this policy review, and which brings us to this point. Other notable revisions of the policy that we took opportunity to update were simplifying the funding agreement. So with strategic partners, so we had lengthy agreements to go with these relatively small amounts of funding. And so we've pared that down to more of a letter of agreement or a letter of engagement, as opposed to a 20-page document, which just sort of simplifies things for both sides. We changed the name of the Community Partnership Program to the Community Capacity Grant, which just is simply done to avoid confusion between the two. We had one called the SPP and one called the CPP, and they were always getting confused. So we do have a different acronym to confuse now. Updating the evaluation principles and checklists for the Community Capacity Grant, the one-time operational funding request, and the capital funding request. And again, these are in the appendices, and I would recommend not focusing on those as much today. And then removing the staff recommendation from the one-time capital and the operating funding request. So previously, IA staff member or usually one staff member would evaluate these requests and include that evaluation or recommendation in the RFD for the bigger capital and operating requests. And I think, are giving council a little more input and control over how those grants are administered. And then removing the evaluation scorecards, that's just a procedural thing. We're changing how the smaller community capacity grants are evaluated and taking those out of the policy anyway. So just to go through the main changes to the actual policy itself. So we changed the wording of the purpose. I'm just going to go to the new. Sorry. Bear with me. Okay, sorry. Here's the new purpose, and this is just a slight change in wording. The town of Wolfville is committed to supporting community groups and organizations that add capacity and benefit to the community and benefit the community by offering programs, events, and spaces that are accessible and welcoming. The purpose of this policy is to provide a framework for reviewing and evaluating requests from community organizations for grant funding to support programming, capital investments, accessibility improvements, community events, and other projects that align with the town's strategic and operational priorities as broadly enabled by Section 65A of the Municipal Government Act. And that's just a little bit more wordy than the previous purpose and just more accurately describes what the policy is for. And then we go through each of the programs. So the one-time operating requests, the capital funding requests, sponsorship and advertising. This hasn't changed at all from the previous policy. Strategic partnership program is the main, is the one that sees the most changes. And those are here.
Excuse me, Nick, I just wanted to interject. CEO, do you think it would be relevant to maybe go through each, the grants to organization, the policy has 4 underneath. Do you think it would be relevant to go through each one of them with the changes? Or is that what you were gonna do? I think it's because we're more actively involved. I think council
Yeah,
needs to.
I think that's what Nick was about to
Yep.
do.
I
We can,
totally-
we can come, if something is missed, we can come back.
Okay, so maybe just when you go through one, maybe we could just pause and if there's any questions after each one?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Sorry about that.
Sure. Okay, so we can go back then to the. Let's talk about one-time operating requests. I don't believe there's changes to the wording of this part of the policy. And the only thing that we're changing is the staff recommendation.
Mayor McKay?
So I've got to go backwards here. So this is, so one-time operating. So they can only, how many, every 4 years?
Mhm.
And Appendix C, is that done by staff or by council? It says all criteria outlined in Appendix C are met.
I think it's.
Okay, so, and is Appendix A, oh, if I hit this button, will I come out? Find out. So then those are all there, and are those, so staff will put together that original checklist to make sure they qualify. And one-time request is evaluation checklist. Staff will review the applications for one-time to determine if are complete and criteria are met. And then council will determine whether is this the evaluation check sheet done by council or staff. So A3 says one-time special funding requests operating. And it says public need, alignment with the council, equity, accessibility, like all of those things. That's great. So are they done by staff or done by council?
I'm sorry, can you,
Sorry.
which
Sure.
part are you referring to?
So if I go, so it says appendix, well, it's going to say appendix A, change appendix C are met. So appendix A at the bottom, I clicked on that appendix A and it sent me down to the appendix. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is the one-time special funding request evaluation checklist. And then there's all of the lists that's there. Is that list completed by staff or council?
Council.
Okay, so we get this ahead of time and we'll fill it out and come back and discuss it in open session.
Yes.
Okay. Curious. And then if I go, I don't know how to get back to where I was. It's fine. And then it says, The funding of the request would be in addition to the grants to organization budget allowance. That's a little bit confusing in the way that, like, especially, so I'm assuming that that means there is a grants to organization line item in our budget, and this will be in addition to it. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. It's
And-
confusing
Yeah,
in that
and if I
way.
can just add too, so for the one-time requests, both operating and capital, those were amended by council.
Yeah.
About this time last year, maybe a little earlier than that. And so all of those pieces are exactly the same. It's just how they're being evaluated. It's being proposed to change at this stage.
Yeah, I just read that wording again and I was like, oh, I could see how it was slightly confusing, but. And I don't remember this, but clearly we did it. So funding will be provided either in one lump sum or expense in a year it is approved, or through multi-year payments. So if it's a one-time grant and you can apply for it every 4 years, this one doesn't say when your 4 year starts. So that one says, the next one says something different. So should they be consistent? So it says in your 8-year one, it says it starts at the first of your first 8 year. That one, if it's paid out over multi-year payments, your first year is on year 1 is when you first apply.
Year one will be when you first
To be
receive,
consistent,
yeah,
I
receive.
think that would make sense, yes. So we should.
I don't know why we put multi-year payments in there. Can anyone refresh my memory?
What, can I just ask you, Nick, there is no upper limit on that? What is the maximum amount we've given out on that? So we would do it in increments.
I don't have the most that we've given out, but there was. I think the curling event had a.
Like
one that was
25 or
In
30?
the range of 25 or 30, I believe.
Okay, and that was a one-time payment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the other, I don't know that multi-year payment has been used, or if it's not been used recently, I don't believe, but I would assume the reason it's there isn't to look at things necessarily over the course of, say, 3 or 4 years, but if you wanted to put an operating grant over the course straddling 2 years. So you have an event coming up, or you have some sort of a thing upcoming, and you split a payment between the current fiscal year and the coming fiscal year.
I think I don't understand that, why we did that still, but, because if you have an event, you would just keep it in trust, and and the organization would be responsible to pay it or spend it as they say they would in the document that we signed with them. So I think that muddies waters, but
I
is that
think
just,
It
I
does
think it's
also,
there.
sorry,
go ahead.
provide some flexibility if there was only budget to provide a certain amount. And it may not be a one-time event for this too. It could be an organization doing programming over multiple years.
Think about Randall House.
yep, but that's different, because that's in our budget as a line item,
But
period.
that would be a kind of capital expense that would be,
But this is operating.
okay.
So okay, yeah, the two get confusing though, right? So I just want to make sure so the budgeting part was for us, not necessarily that organization. Okay, but it's one time they can ask, so they can come in and ask for something one time and we can budget over 2 years. That's a distinct change because our previous director of finance didn't let us do that. Okay, so I think Appendix A needs to change there, and then I think there needs to be the blurb, unless I'm wrong, that it needs to say the first year. It starts at the first year that you apply,
We can easily put that in.
right? Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah. And do we need to have an upper amount, or to say how much we would be willing to divide it into? Because 25 is a lot, and we're gonna have to look at that in the budget process of where we're gonna, what we're gonna allow into that pot. So I'm just wondering, is this a time that we say what the maximum should be? Because we have it in the operating as a maximum, we changed that. I don't see it there. So is that something that we want to discuss, council?
Which one are you talking about?
Right now in the one-time operating It's over 2,000, but there's not an upper limit. So in the operating, we have an upper limit of 50,000, which we changed. And so do we want as council to consider to have an upper limit in this policy? 25,000 is what Nick said we've given out, maybe over 2 years, but that's a lot of money for, people that are in the pot. So we would have to consider putting more in that in the budget process. Is that correct, CAO? That we may, unless we put an upper limit in there.
You're always going to be considering, the upcoming budget. These are like for larger requests, you're likely going to be considering them as part of the budget process for the following year. And it is up to council whether you want to limit that in the policy.
So that, I guess that's the
if
question. I'm
given-
throwing that
yeah,
at the
if-
council right now.
If that is the wishes of council, what I would suggest, because we're taking, the one item of feedback was already provided. We can take additional feedback. So if council would like to see an upper limit, rather than talking about what that upper limit is, I think you can just give us the feedback you'd like to see one and we can bring
Okay.
back some options.
So before I move on to the other councillors, or unless you wanted to comment on this, because I was gonna.
Yes.
Okay, I don't, okay,
Okay.
Councillor Butler.
So when we met to discuss this, I had actually brought up why there was no maximum limit. And the reason was because we thought if you set a maximum, everyone will apply for the maximum.
That's exactly.
And it comes back to council for us to say they either get that or something lower. So we just kind of left it open so that if someone only needed 4,000, they would apply for 4,000. But if you say the maximum is 25,000, they might just all come in and say, we need $25,000. So, because I do remember bringing it up at our policy task force meeting, why there was no maximum. I like those dimensions of a policy put in, but because the first amount is so low, we decided not to put anything as a maximum, hoping that folks would just apply for the bare minimum or what their needs were.
So I do remember that conversation, and thank you for bringing that up. I just remember thinking I wasn't sure on that because, as you know, people have to present their budget. So if it's more than 50%, if their budget is 25%, they're not, or 25,000, they're not getting 25,000. So if your event is 10,000 and they're going to ask for the 5,000. So we would have to see those numbers and decide if it would be worthy. So I would be fine with it, but it's at council's discretion on what we want to do. So Councilor Palmer, did you have something to say? Okay. So all very, very good points. So I'll throw that out right now to see what council, if this is something we want staff to go back and look at. Sorry, go ahead, Mayor McKay.
My question is this where we had Music Week and curling? Is this where, because Events Acadia came in and asked for that, although it was a partnership. So I didn't know if that was because it was a partnership that we were in, or was it a one-time? Because clearly it wasn't one time. Well, I don't know how many years were in between those two things. No, it wasn't more than 4 years. So how does that, or is that because we have an agreement, an MOA with them outside of this?
I wasn't personally involved with that request for Music Week, so I'm not sure if that was treated as part of some of the Acadia MOU or a separate grant. But I don't believe it was a one-time operating request.
And on the curling, that was same answer as Nick for Music Week, but on the curling, that was a direct grant to Acadia. It didn't come through the one-time program.
Okay. It did not.
It did
Okay.
not, no.
That was my only concern, was if we put an upper limit on it and there was something we wanted to partner on with any organization, would that stop us? But I think it's okay the way it is. I don't know if I understand both sides. I'm fine with it as it is.
Then we'll just leave it as it is if that's the will of council. Okay, thank you.
Next question, but
Council Palmer.
so just to be clear, so if I have a special project that I'm going to do in November, I don't know, whatever it is, and I am looking for 50 grand, I could come through that program. If I'm spending $250,000, I could go through that program once every 4 years.
Correct.
And if I'm running the operation, I'm going to come to you or I assume you, because I get the question all the time, like, how do I do this? I'm gonna say, you're gonna go and meet with you, and you're gonna assess what the request is, and then you're gonna put it in one of these buckets. Is that how you perceive this happening?
Generally, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So we are on the one-time operating grant right now. Are there any more questions associated with that? Just to confirm, Nick, this can be submitted throughout the year, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
it is an open, there's no deadline, and it does say it doesn't say it right there, but
So
council
that-
would always
okay.
have the option to defer it to the budget, the next year's budget.
Mhm.
So otherwise you would be likely taking it from operating reserves.
Which makes not a lot of sense, because if you need it, you need it.
So just to reiterate, if we're moving on from one-time operating one, we have to fix the appendix C reference.
Yes.
And then we also have to put in, similar to capital funding requests, that base year or starting year. If we're requiring no more applications than once every 4 years. That's council's feedback, correct?
Mayor McKay?
My question, so I have a question on that then. So this is, when you said that, Deputy Mayor, sorry. So this is open all year and we can defer it to the budget process, where it's in addition to the grants to org budget. I'm not sure why we just don't say it's open and we decide at budget time. Like, I mean, anyone can submit it, I guess, anytime they want, but we're only going to look at it at budget time, because I don't know how we budget it. And often we do say that, oh, well, we'll just refer it. I mean, and most things that are coming in for a one-time grant know that they've been planning it for at least a year in advance. It would be unusual.
What we do.
The only other option would be to take it from reserves if you were not deferring it to.
Right.
If I'm
Sure.
capturing your question correctly, it's more or less, should we explicitly say, should we only look at it at budget time? Is that
Yes.
your, that?
That is the question.
Yeah. So that is what we do in practice 99.9% of
Yeah.
the time. By not stating that explicitly in policy, it does give us the flexibility if something just fell in our lap. And we wanted to be able to act on it quickly. Council is within policy to make consideration, and as Nick had said, take it from operating reserve to be able to fund. But 99.9% of all the applications we get, we tell them right up front, we're going to refer it to budget time.
But
Councillor Palmer?
so we have a line item that is, when we're going through our budget now. So we're going to have a line item that allows for the operating, and it's going to be X. I don't know what X is. But the example would be, Mayor, would be when that lady came in asking for the Prince, Councillor Williams will know because he was familiar with it, the Prince Edward Duke at Edinburgh. So that would be an example of something that we did not have any in our budget, and she needed that money now, or essentially now, because there was cash to send those kids to Saskatchewan or whatever.
Yes.
That's an example.
So that was done through our budget process. So that request, we presented that request to council probably within a few weeks or a month of finalizing the budget. So that was actually built directly into
Oh.
the budget, that funding.
But it did come through as a one-time operating request through this grant program.
Are there any more questions relating to the one-time operating grant? That we can, Mayor McKay?
Just, do you have clarity on what you need? Because you asked a question, CAO, and did we answer it?
You did not. I will ask it again. Yeah. Yeah. How the tables have turned. Yeah. So just to clarify, the follow-up on the operating funding requests, one-time operating funding requests, well, in item D, we'll fix the reference to appendix C, it should be Appendix A. And we'll also add a reference similar to capital funding requests that state the start year, the beginning year, because we use a 4-year window for applications. So those are the two pieces that we have to take back.
Is council clear on that? Was there anything else that you don't think CAO captured? So CAO is clear and we're clear. So you're clear?
I'm just gonna make one more
Okay, thank you.
recommendation that we add that applications may be submitted throughout the year and that council reserves the right to defer any requests to the following year's budget process if they deem so appropriate in that section 5.1.1.
That's fine with me, council.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
That's
nods,
great.
so that's reasonable. We'll say that. So after that, Nick and CAO.
The capital funding.
Okay, thank you.
These are also unchanged from the previous policy. Or the existing policy.
Okay, I
I do
know
have
we just, I'm gonna allow you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we went over this recently, but Councillor Butler.
It's all my fault because I requested that everything be put in alphabetical order. So the A, B, C stuff is all my fault. It does say letter G, Appendix D. It should be
Okay.
Appendix B, which is the same issue as the first one. It's all my fault.
Councillor Butler, it is not your fault. I think we're all trying to make things clear and as much in plain language as we can, so we can discuss how the appendices maybe work as a total after we go through each one at a time. Does that make sense?
You did a great job putting everything in alphabetical order. I printed both off and I was flipping them at the same time just to check things. I was like, oh, this looks so much nicer.
All right. Does anyone have any questions on the capital?
It's the same question. So
Mary Kay?
this then comes, the staff will make sure that everything is in its proper order and place and come back here for decision. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. And is the deadline November the 1st?
That is the existing. So I would also recommend
Good.
moving from Appendix B1. The deadline for applications is November 1st. All applications will be reviewed as part of the annual budget process for council. Put that right at the front. That and the one from the operating are really the only things like that. Everything else is essentially duplicated, so we could
Mhm.
push the appendices out.
I'm fine with that, council.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm seeing nodding, so that makes sense. Are there any more questions on capital? I don't see any, so we'll move on.
Okay. Sponsorships and advertising, we haven't changed anything here, and this was a editing error, but that just says participation, that word that you can't quite read there. Everything else is the same as the existing policy here.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah.
We, Mayor McKay.
Yeah, thank you. This is, find this discriminatory. I think it should just say, recreation activities. I don't think any one activity should be put in on top of the other.
Agreed.
See?
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know why it says that explicitly. It should say, we do none, curling, golf, nothing.
I expect, so we had a similar conversation. We don't know why it's there. I expect it's a relic of a previous time when
Sure.
golf, when the pre and post conference golf tournaments were quite the commodity.
I think Mayor McKay, we left that in there for you. We
Okay.
knew we would bring it up. We knew we would bring it up.
Okay.
We did
thank you.
mention it. We knew you'd bring it up. So,
That's
yes, so we'll scratch that one out on council. I'm sure looking around probably agrees with that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So we'll scratch that out.
Other than that, it's great.
I don't see any more, I don't see any more on that.
Good to move on.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is the one that has the most significant changes, strategic partnership program. This section remains the same. So this is just sort of the types of organizations that would be considered as strategic partners. Facility operators providing affordable and accessible multi-purpose recreational space. signature festivals that are long-standing, at least 4 years in operation, that we have a partnership beyond a funding contributor with. They're primarily in Wolfville and this wording did change, sorry. We did have a requirement for an economic impact study, which those can be quite costly and potentially more than the funding we're even giving. So we changed the wording there to have demonstrated rationale to indicate a positive economic effect resulting from attraction of attendees from outside of Wolfville. Does that make sense to everyone?
Councillor Palmer.
Well, I'm just wondering like about that particular line when I read that. Like some of these things that we're strategically partnering are not necessarily making an economic contribution to our town as opposed to a feeling of town as far as volunteers and citizens involved. So I'm not sure that economic is the right word in that line because Stage Profits, for example, has been a strategic partner of ours for years, and how many tens of or maybe hundreds of people are volunteers of that. Does it make money? I don't know. I mean, we see the numbers, but it's not. Doesn't I mean the Acadia gets the rental of the rink. Does it make? I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering if economic is the right word there.
I
When
think
I read that,
in this case, this refers to just bringing in people to town that would contribute to the economy of the town. So bringing a positive economic effect resulting from attraction of attendees from outside of Wolfville. So we're just referring to bringing people into town for an event or a performance or things like that would qualify.
yeah, I'm still not sure that's the right word because Stage Profits. I mean, I'll pick on Stage Profits because I mean I've been to Stage Profits every year for years, and I'm not sure how many people come from out of town. That's. I mean, just not sure that's the right word. That's all.
I don't think Stage Profits have been our strategic partner for that long, actually, but maybe 1 or 2 years, but
But I've been going for years.
Yeah.
and then that will be council's discretion to be deciding in the future, moving forward, who's going to be on there with the metrics. Mayor McKay.
Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling. And then the next line says, though, community organizations that build capacity in Wolfville by introducing programs, projects that provide benefits to the community. So nowhere in that word, like, I don't know how we assess both of those things. And there's nowhere in there that says, that I could see that says it adds culture to our town. And I think that's what we're missing. Because I think we have a culture of shows and theater and music and all of those things that we all value a lot. But it may not economically be benefiting us, but it is culturally benefiting us. So I don't know how we word that, but I'm with you. I think it's a bit of both, I guess, but I think it's I would almost think that some of those strategic partners are more culture or a value-based thing as opposed to an economic-based thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Can I, before Councillor Lee, can I just add on that? I do agree with the cultural aspect and since with all the EDI and the committee that we also had, sometimes these partnerships are putting on programs that we don't have the staff capacity for. And so all the time I sort of think about that because we would like to put them on. We don't always have the staff capacity. So I don't know how that could be embedded in, but I do agree with Mayor McKay and so Councillor Elliott.
Just wanted to say that I agree with the mayor wholeheartedly.
So, okay. I think that this preamble section for 5.4.1, this is meant to sort of classify the 3 different types of organizations that we support. And then there is language later on in the policy that refers to so the strategic plan and priorities of council. So it does indicate that we would be evaluating them on things like creating a sense of belonging and welcoming atmospheres, and those things are sort of addressed outside of that, but I would be happy to put in language if council
If I can just add, Chair, I think it's important to remember when looking at the strategic partnership program, while each element has certain criteria to look at, the anchor is council strategic plan. And council strategic plan spans a number of priorities from culture to environment to economic prosperity, different things of that nature. So I think we're hearing you loud and clear on some of the nuances and details. I wouldn't look at that economic, if you can just scroll back up, Nick, for just a second, that of course, it's up to council's discretion because you are the ones who are evaluating these, but positive economic effect resulting from, whatever we choose. A couple of things on it. I wouldn't necessarily look at that as being narrowcast into, does the initiative make money or not make money? I think if you use, whether it be stage profits or whatnot, it's not difficult to demonstrate that had a net positive economic impact on the community when you start to look at folks, whether they're from Wolfville or not, patronizing restaurants, spending time in Wolfville, doing things of that nature. That economic effect comes about fairly fluidly, but not every single one of our pieces all need to necessarily hit every single piece of, whether it be culture or economic impact or anything of that nature, because again, the anchor is the strategic plan. So if it fits in the strategic plan, it ought to be able to fit somewhere in this program.
And
yeah,
just if I could add to that, these 4 criteria are for signature festivals or events that have been around for at least 4 years. They're likely to draw people from outside of town, but someone like Stage Profits, they could qualify as a community organization that builds capacity in Wolfville by introducing programs or projects that provide benefits to the community, if that makes sense. Those are 2 different types of partners. So somebody could still qualify even if they don't necessarily draw people from outside of town, if that's the concern.
Thank you. Mayor McKay?
I think what worries me about not putting something in there is the fact that right now, I think our strategic plan is incredibly inclusive. It may not always be. We as a group have chosen that. The next group may not. Their prerogative. But if it's embedded here, it can't be taken out. They would have to come back and revisit the policy. So I think the fabric of this community is in its culture. If we could, even if it just says builds capacity in the culture of like something in there that it brings it to people's forefront of their minds, because I do worry that if the plan changes, it gets lost. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree with that. I'm seeing nods around the head, or the head. I'm seeing nods around the table, people's heads nodding around the table that they were more comfortable with that. So is there a place we can add that, CAO?
Yeah, sorry, that's the wrong button. This button. If that's the direction of council, then we can take that back and find an appropriate avenue to include.
So a reference to culture specifically.
Likely in that C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C, yes, C.
Yeah, and see. I do have a question, and I don't mean to be nitpicky, because I have gone through this, but when you say primarily located in the town of Wolfville, are not all of, like in the past, all of them like in Wolfville? Like primarily is like a broad term. So like that would be Devour. The actual building is in Wolfville, but some of the operations are done outside. Is that why we put primarily in there?
I believe it's to just provide flexibility, or if there was something that doesn't solely operate in Wolfville, but mostly does, then you could still
Okay.
you'd still be able to fund it.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that too, because I think we could partner with, say, the County of Kings on something and as a strategic partnership together. So this group, so was this where, I think it was, I was trying to think of the ones that were crossed out. Is this where the Wolfville Curling Club fit in? That was something different,
They would have been a facility operator, I believe.
but under the strategic partnership?
Yes.
Yeah, just not.
Gotcha. But that, okay, so that one under 4.4541A, that's where they would have fallen. Okay, and was, okay, so when this comes back, the evaluation form again will come back to council to determine what our strategic, so I can't find that evaluation form now. It's not listed, oh, and outlined in Schedule A, is that right? Is
Uh,
that the right letter as well?
So Schedule A currently lists the existing strategic partners,
Gotcha.
which may or may not.
Be what we move forward with, sure. So then are those amounts?
Those are the amounts from the previous
Previously,
council before last year when we updated it for a 1-year term.
okay. And were those amounts determined? So how were those amounts determined, or maybe we don't know that? Was it a correlation to the taxes that they paid?
No,
It was just a grant.
so when this policy was originally created, it was created because certain groups were applying year after year for similar amounts or similar reasons for funding. And
Yep.
so this policy was created to basically cut through some of that administrative burden and just give away to give funding year after year. And so when you see the Wolfland District Lions Club, that 2,850 is a specific number that I can't remember what it was for, but it was for something specific that they needed year after year. And all of the numbers would have been recommended by staff to council and then adjusted by council to fit within the budget.
So we will put a budget line, because it doesn't say that this will does it say? It doesn't say that this is in our budget. Like the other one said, they are in addition to, this is a line item.
This will be budgeted, yes.
Okay, because it doesn't say that in here, but the other ones say they're in addition to. So should it say in here that this will be a budget line, or we'll just know that?
The only thing that makes reference to sort of to the budget is the maximum amount per partner, and council would, under this program, would decide what each partner gets, and that would set the budget for the year. So
But as a policy and a program of the town, with a set amount in it on an ongoing basis, we would create a budget. We have a budget line and would continue to use that budget line.
Yeah, it just doesn't explicitly say it in there, and the other ones did, so I was just curious if that's what it is. And so the evaluation of this is where? Because the other one said there's an appendix, this one doesn't say there's an appendix,
if we could
right?
keep
Oh, keep going, sorry.
going on, I believe should become clear. So this is where this is unchanged. 5.4.2, this is where it just mentions that they need to be aligned with council's strategic plan and priorities, other town principles and initiatives such as the accessibility plan, and equity, anti-racism, things like that would be just sort of fall under that. And then this is the change in this sort of the timing. So partners will be selected to align with each 4-year term of council at the beginning of the second year of council's term, which is coming up April 1. This will allow council to develop its strategic plan for the 4-year term during its first year in office and to select strategic partners that align with that plan. Is everybody okay with that wording? Does that make sense?
I just have a question of clarification, if I may. So it 5.4.1C, as outlined in Schedule A, is Schedule A no longer going to exist? Like it's.
I
gonna
would
be-
recommend that it doesn't. And
Okay.
In that case, we would take that reference out, but just because
But
there's,
keep 5.4.1C, community organizations that build capacity in Wolfville by introducing programs or projects that provide benefits to the community, that can stay.
yes. yeah.
Okay. But not as outlined in Schedule A.
And that means
Okay.
that means all of the above. So A, B, and C. Like, I'm not exactly sure why it was written that way, but
Okay.
the Schedule A just lists all of the partners that had been chosen. And in that sense, you can't remove them from the policy without
Yes.
revising the policy. So there's some in that list that don't exist anymore
Okay.
as strategic partners. So it doesn't quite make sense to me
Okay.
that it should be in the policy.
Mary Kay?
So we wouldn't put a Schedule A at the back of this, because I think being transparent about who we provided funding for.
We can do
Right.
that in other places, though, and we do have to, we're required to say, and it does say where they would be listed.
So if I can just add on to that. So the Municipal Government Act requires us to post all grant recipients in a public place, and we've actually added reference to that in this policy. The challenge with putting it in policy is if something changes, we have to change the policy. Whereas if we just post it in a public place, for instance, in our ops plan or a listing on the website or something of that nature, then if something does change, it doesn't require an additional council motion to update all the policy. We can just change it. So it's a little bit more efficient while still giving direction to post publicly that we've granted organizations a certain amount somewhere. And we've recently started doing that in the ops plan.
So that's where it's referenced right here, 5.6, all of the grants will be disclosed in the operations plan.
Thank you. Just for clarity, because I know that when council was reading these packages and some of them were like the policy, we're like, okay, they're all strategic partners. And then there was an appendix and then there was schedules and everything like that. Is it fair to say, CEO, that you're going to be going through all the schedules, all the appendices and making sure they align up with the wording and everything like that? So when we look at them, it's going to be clear, plain language, and they're going to be easy to follow.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I just then need to figure out when someone, was there a date on this one? November 1st? Was it the same at the top? I didn't, or anywhere on here. Did I see a date when call for expression?
In the next one, it's not a date, but it's a call for expressions of interest in becoming or remaining a strategic partner will be made as soon as practical following approval of the town strategic plan. So that could happen at any time once the plan has been developed moving forward. Then staff would evaluate the eligibility of potential partners based on the policy and then present to council a slate of all of the interested strategic partners. And then council would go through an exercise of vetting those and choosing who would become a strategic partner and how much funding they would get for the 4-year term.
That makes good sense to us, but
But
probably not to
exactly.
anyone else.
Yeah, I'm thinking,
But that-
because I'm thinking it's probably not going to make sense to other people because we're going to be looking at it for basically April the 1st. And we don't know when everybody's strategic plan is going to be, well, second year, so it should be in. But there should be a date, I think, maybe. Because they're going to want their funding. We don't want to be looking at it in, July or something like that when the funding is up for that term. So
Yeah, I don't know how practically to do that in a policy, but I think it's not clear. If I was in an organization and said, oh, I'd have to remember when the election was, I'd have to look, like, I don't know that most people would
But that's
pay attention.
that will be explained like sort of externally to the policy. This is just to guide how the town is able to provide money and the parameters around it. And then we would advertise through the website and even through direct contact with our existing partners and potential partners we think might be good, and inviting those expressions of interest at an appropriate time that gives council enough time to go through the process before the budget gets set. And then we have our slate for the next 4 years.
Just to add additional detail to that, because we looked at this wording as well and with a lot of the same considerations that you just made. So this past year, this council, we chose to go through our first budget and then do strategic planning afterwards. And we did that in about June, and it was finally approved in October, I believe, October, November. Other municipalities and other councils could choose to do it right away. And change that, or they could choose, or they could have just taken more time and landed, about this time of the year in their first term, or the first year of their term, in about now, landing on a strategic plan. So acknowledging all of those differences, we kind of landed on this wording to acknowledge, because again, we're only doing this once every 4 years. Acknowledging that there could be different decisions made by different councils in terms of the timing of their strategic plan. And this would accommodate all of those things by basically saying, as soon as your strategic plan's done, then you should be doing these things to be able to align your funding streams.
Councillor Palmer?
So in conjunction with that, CAO, is doing a strategic plan part of our policy, or is it just something that we believe we should be doing? Or should it be made part of our policy?
I believe, I'd have to confirm, I do believe we have policy direction to create a strategic plan. However, it is not an obligation of every town council to create a strategic plan. Many don't. So if it's part of our approach, and I would say suggest culture in the town of Wolfville to create strategic plans after elections. But it is not a requirement of any town council to do so. And even if it were in policy, if a town council chose not to, it would also be their prerogative to change the policy and not do it.
Well, then I'm just wondering if 5.4.4, because it's specifically talking about strategic plan, like as soon as practical following the approval of the town's strategic plan. Well, if the next council doesn't approve the strategic plan, then you sort of open a bit of a.
What I would say is to the mayor's point earlier about incorporating reference to culture in that earlier bullet. Any policy of any council can be changed by that council or a future one. This is giving explicit direction as to what this council views as being the policy and the direction of the town. A future council can change that, but you are giving explicit direction on what your expectations are.
Yeah, because if I recall correctly, that this was all changed, I think even prior to us, because it was said, it put it into the hands of staff to make a lot of these decisions, where we're saying this should, if you're saying we want to align it, it brings it back around this table. So I guess it's a prerogative of whoever's at the table, but I think it is important for council to have some input into, if we're making a strategic plan, what are the partners that align with that? So I'm good with this. Now I understand this. So I think I would just say, if we put a pin in this, we would have to make sure that it is part of the operations plan.
Yeah.
So that's in the next topic. We'd have to make sure that that says somewhere in there that community next department is going to be doing this as part of their plan, right? Did I get them? Is that the fallout of that? Okay. Does that make sense? And that's one more question.
Go ahead.
And then, so the evaluation of this is that partners who want to be considered will simply put in a request.
Expression of interest.
So not a form, just an expression of interest that,
I have an idea for a sort of a form that would gather all of the information that we would want to see.
okay,
from a
but
potential
it's
partner.
not in here, correct? Okay. And because a lot of the things that are in here are subjective. They're not necessarily quantitative, right? So I mean, it's not, economic impact, sure you can do, but the rest is a feeling. So it will just be tick these boxes and then we get to look at the, okay.
There's some, yeah, they are subjective, but alignment with the strategic plan and priorities and those things, there's some direct sort of questions where you
Sure.
can draw lines to those that make sense.
And then you'll do that as part of the package that would come to us from an expression of interest. It aligns with this strategic plan and then we get it.
I wouldn't be determining whether it aligns. You council
We'll do
would
it.
determine how well it aligns with the strategic plan as part of that evaluation,
Okay. So they just submit to you and you pass it on.
essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be checking like, I'd be checking whether they are a facility operator or a signature event that's been around for 4 years, or they're a capacity building organization contributing to culture and the benefit of the town. And I guess I would do a sort of loose, or not loose, but an assessment of whether they align somehow with strategic plan and priorities, but council would be assessing which priorities they align with and how well, sort of more qualitatively, and then whether they've submitted the required documentation, which would be financial statements, things like that.
I just have a question to build on that, and we talked about this in the review committee, is that in the evaluation key, and this policy is the one that council really wanted to have more hands-on in, and that's the one that we're deciding for people for 4 years. We want everybody to feel like they can apply, not just the people that, or not just the events or communities that are, or businesses that have been on there before, to make it fair. So the evaluation key, I noticed, and we did talk about this, does not have any numbers associated with it. So you have the high, medium, and low, but in the community capacity grant, you did change it. So we talked about, like, that evaluation key does have numbers associated with it. So the other ones do not. Can you just explain the reasoning on that? Like, I want to be as fair, and I'm sure the rest of council want to be as fair as possible. So is there a reason why you didn't put any numbers associated with that key, that evaluation key?
That's a holdover from the way it was previously done, although that was evaluated by staff and only as a piece of the information that council would have used. Also, those were for the one-time operating and capital. There's no evaluation in there for strategic partners, which we would be adding. We would add that, but outside of the policy. So council would do that.
Getting some of my policies mixed up,
Nice.
because
Confused.
just to back up then, because there was a lot of appendices and a lot of, and so just to back up on, so the one-time operation and capital grants, that evaluation key does not have any numbers associated with it, but your community capacity does. So what you're saying is the SPP does not have any like rubric per se or evaluation key that we can make things as fair as we can, because I think everybody sitting around here wants to make sure that we make really good decisions, because this is finally coming into our hands after, it was in staff's hands, and we have to express why we felt, right? So
There will be a tool for
Okay.
council to use to evaluate strategic partners. Although I don't believe that belongs in the policy itself,
Okay.
that it will exist, and we can work together on creating the best tool. Like, I'll have some suggestions and examples of what we could use for that.
okay,
And
so there
believe
will
this
be a
thing-
tool that we can just, and not, yeah, sort
Exactly.
of evaluate it as fair as the other ones
Right.
have.
And similarly to with the capital and operational requests, if we take those out of the policy, then we can create something better that works better for council. If you would rather have numbers than just high, medium, and low, or if we want to assign numbers to those assessments, and we can do that as well if we remove them from the policy.
Mhm. I think at the council policy, we talked about everything being a little bit more, similar. That is the only one that the staff is reviewing is community capacity, which we have not talked about yet. The other two that council's doing, and they don't have numbers. So we just talked about being the same and making those decisions. That's all.
Sure.
Well, I thought I did, but now I'm not so sure that I understand. So the policy will stand as, with the additions and revisions here, but the actual rubric or evaluation criteria that for one-time capital, one-time operating strategic partnership will live outside the policy so that we can create it so that it fits with the strategic plan that we have of the day.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you, Mayor McKay, for clarifying that. I guess we can talk about that. Can we talk about that at some point? I'm looking at the CAO about the evaluation keys. Like we're talking about policy now. I know I jumped ahead. I've been going through this a lot, so yeah.
We can at a future point, we can talk about the evaluation keys and just to kind of put a bow on it, hopefully put a bow on it, not to spin it off. But for the same reason that we wouldn't include lists of organizations in policy, you don't want to, it's not a great practice to include rubrics or evaluative tools, things of that nature in policy because it is incredibly inflexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the confusion started when we're going through all this and everybody, I got to give kudos to everybody sitting around here because we're all opening the appendices. And so, we're discussing that, but thank you. I think everybody's clear. I'm clear. Is everybody else clear? Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next item, 5.4.5 is unchanged, I believe. A slight wording change, just this said that they would be immediately removed, but we changed it to we would let them know if there was a change in their sort of meeting the criteria. And then, oh, I just had that highlighted for myself. 5,000 was the amount that was set for this for maximum per strategic partner. And that could be changed by council at their will as well. Everything else.
We did, just to intervene for 1
Yeah.
second, we did talk about this at council policy review of possibly making that higher as the 5,000 has been there for a while and the cost of living has gone up, but I will defer to comment on council. Mayor McKay.
I was going to say, it's similar to, I can't remember the item before, but if council would like that to be reconsidered, that amount, that would be the direction
To
we
give
could
them.
receive is give us direction to reconsider that number and then we can bring back some options.
Mayor McKay.
$5,000 is not a ton of money these days. I mean, it is and it isn't, but it's for events, it's not, and it's been that amount for. Yeah,
Since 2016.
2016? Oh, boy, yes, 10 years. I guess my question is, if we're taking this, so this is a line item in our budget. So if the line item in the budget is, so these will all be submitted to us. Then we'll do the budget. So if we know that we have 15 of them and our budget is $50,000, nobody's getting $5,000. Well, maybe, but it's going to be different. But then if we say the budget is $100,000, can we divvy up the $100,000 in any way we see fit to, that sounds bad, but but can we allocate it into not that we have to spend it all either, but if you put 5,000 on here and only 2 apply, that's $10,000 out of a $100,000 budget line. Maybe that's fine.
If
but
I
is
may,
it-
I think that we would be doing this exercise that would feed into the budget. So this will create the budget line item. So if
Budget line,
there was-
yeah.
right, and then that can be adjusted and each partner, if we needed to cut from somewhere and council decided to cut from that, then we would have to adjust the amounts of the strategic partners, but we would be taking in all the interested parties, all the interested partners, deciding how much funding each of them is going to get and see what that number is. And if we like that number and we want to put that in the budget, then that will become part of the budget process and an item that we can further discuss down the road.
I think 5,000 is low, and I look at the Randall House and we do 10,000 every year, and it's a separate line item. I get that, and it's in the budget, but we specifically did that to be supportive of that group, and that's totally fine. I just think 5,000 is low, and I'm not sure if we need
I did
a
do a
specific number.
I did a calculation if we had added CPI every year from 2016, and it would be starting from 5,000, then it would be $6,476.45 if we added every year.
Yeah.
I'll look around the table if we want to have that discussion now for.
From a I'll direct this to the CAO. From a policy point of view, we're gonna put this number in, like whatever that number is, whatever we settle on, whether it's 4,000 or 5,000, whatever it is. But if we want to give somebody, if we want to change it, we have to open the policy to change it. So does that create some problems for us?
Doesn't create a problem for us.
Mhm.
That is the parameters you've given yourself. It's a responsible thing to create the parameters before seeing the applications, before seeing the requests, because this is informed by our capacity to provide grant funding to the community. Because from experience, there will be no shortage of great ideas and great initiatives. There's going to be plenty of them. This is where you create your framework for some discipline and some affordability. So yeah, if we put a number, whatever the number is there, then if you get a application in and you say, oh, I'd love to be able to give them twice that,
This is very-
these are your parameters.
The strategic partners are still eligible for the other grant programs as well. So there are still avenues to provide additional funding for if they qualify under those programs. They do qualify as an organization and they're not precluded by being a strategic partner.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I want to throw it out to council if we would be comfortable maybe raising this amount and what that amount is. So Councillor Elliott?
I agree with the mayor. It's low. So maybe 7,500.
Yeah, so we agree that it's low and we want to change it. So right now we need to decide on the amount. So
If I can suggest,
Or we don't.
if you give us direction that you feel it's low and like to see it increase, we can bring back a number of options that reflect both affordability of the program and our budget framework.
yeah, that's fair enough. I'm looking around. That seems like that's a good idea. So well, that's fine.
And that's the maximum. So you wouldn't have to give that to all the partners, right? You can do a range.
Councillor Butler?
I just have a question of clarification with regards to the Wolfville Historical Society. So it lived in the policy under a strategic partner at $10,000, which if it says this will not exceed $5,000, it already exceeded it. And I was looking where it was explained that exemption, which I assume is 5.4.7. Is that where that worked? If it does not live in this policy anymore as a listed organization, where is it going to go? And for the same amount? Or I'm just wondering specifically that one organization because it was different than the others. Where will it live and what will happen to that number?
So my recollection of that was we said we were taking it out of policy and where it preserved the heritage of our community, and other municipalities do that as part of their, operation. We didn't do that. It's still a separate entity, but we took and made it a line item exactly in the budget. Wolfville Historical Society, $10,000, so that it was part of our operating budget year after year without having to go through any grant funding. So it was a council decision to do that
Okay.
back.
So does that mean the Wolfville
Dave.
Historical Society can come to us to ask for an additional 7,500 if that is the number as a strategic partner?
Good question.
That was sort of if it doesn't live in the document anymore under that title, it's now just a budget item, which is great at the $10,000. But if they want to then apply because they applied for the one-time operating and got it. So now they could technically come in under, but because the number was already set different than others, I didn't know if they would fit into those other buckets.
I'm actually not sure how that, I suspect that that's an error, that 10,000 was in this because it goes against the policy itself. So, but there was at some time that, you're correct, Mayor, that there was a acknowledgement that they operate a museum, which is something the municipality may otherwise do. So there was that funding was provided outside, and then it kind of got lumped together and put in two places at once. And then we took it out and put it as a $10,000 line item. So I do believe the way this is written that they could apply unless there was an agreement at that time that they weren't, that they couldn't also be a strategic partner, which I'm not aware of.
Okay. Just making sure they're taken care of.
Clear as mud?
So what does our agreement with with Randall House say, with the Wolfville Historical Society? So if it's, perhaps that's the place we put this is, yes, we are happy to give the $10,000 every year as part of our budget. And you can apply for the one-time capital, you can apply for the one-time operating if you want to do something special in that year. But you can't you can't be a strategic partnership
So-
and get a standing line item.
Like, I think just the easiest way to think about it would be that this policy would allow them to apply, like to express interest in being a strategic partner, but we need to consider, it does say that all of the funding that the town gives to a potential
Everyone.
partner should be considered. So that would be part of your consideration. It'd be up to council whether,
Yeah.
and the number of other applicants and all those things would be part of the decision. So if there wasn't enough money to go around, or council didn't feel like that was right, then that would be up to you.
If I can just add something. So the way that regardless of what happened in the past, the way the framework, if approved, would work going forward is each of these funding pots are not necessarily mutually exclusive. So somebody can apply for SPP, somebody can apply for one time, somebody can apply for capital. And then because all of those programs are evaluated and awarded by council, it's up to council to determine whether or not they deem those applications for funding. What I'll also add is we do have a question coming up in ops planning related to whether or not council would like to see some additional work on heritage and culture coming forward from some comments around this table and some comments at PAC as well. The Randall House is an absolutely central piece, in my humble opinion, to that conversation around heritage and culture in the town of Wolfville. So there is likely a dovetailed conversation here that could fit in that piece as well. That would be separate from necessarily grant programming.
Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, just to say that in my experience, that $10,000 was operating money to keep the museum operating, and anything else like the renos would go into a different fund, but you couldn't do both without 2 grants. Okay.
All right. Any more questions? Let's see, where are we actually?
Or
We're
just,
still on the SEP. Okay.
well, that was the very end of the SPP, just that we will consider all contributions provided by the town when determining the amount of funding to provide.
Okay.
This section, the only real.
So we are, just for clarification, we're moving on to the community capacity program.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, can I make a suggestion that we take a break?
If it's the will of council to take a break, I was hoping to get through this, but if it's the will of council to take a break, then we will take a 10-minute break recess right now. Do I need to vote on that? No. Thank you and welcome back. Turn it back to Nick, and we are on the Community Capacity Grant. Well, that's the new name. The old name is CPP.
Can you hear me? Just need to find where we were here. Page 73. How do I see what page I'm on? What page am I on here? Oh, okay. So that's the appendices, right? Yeah, it's okay. Right here. There we go. Oh, like this. Good. Okay. The main change to this is just changing the name from Community Partnership Program to Community Capacity. Oh. My version does have that change. So it'll be Community Capacity Grant, CCG. And then just changing that throughout. So these will all say Community Capacity Grant instead of Community Partnership Program. Those are the only changes made there. So I would open the floor to comments and discussion on that, on this program.
Are there any comments or questions for Nick? That deadline, I did see an application, I did see it on our website. It was February the 1st, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Is that what this is?
Oh, I noticed it on our website that you were advertising for it, so I guess as the previous name.
Oh, right, because we
Yeah,
haven't changed this
Because we haven't
policy
changed
yet.
policy yet, yeah, so.
These ones are evaluated by staff.
These are evaluated by staff, correct? Yes. Sorry, Councillor Butler.
Was this the grant we talked about at our review meeting about the dollar amount being increased?
I think that the suggestion was the total pot, and that would be a budget discussion.
Okay.
This doesn't mention a max, well, this mentions a maximum per grant of 2,000.
Yeah.
Currently, I believe in the budget, and it's been that way for several years, the total amount is about 12,000.
Okay.
So that would allow us to fund 6 maximum, or at the maximum amount of 2,000, or, you know, a bunch more at lower amounts or
Okay.
whatever. So
It was this one that, okay.
yeah, so in the
Yeah.
budget process, we could increase that pot. That would take effect for. Yeah, that wouldn't take effect for this year because the deadline's already passed.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this one, Councillor Butler at Task Force, that some of the grants we didn't really see, they were pretty nominal. They weren't, they weren't that much. Is there, can this one you can apply every year?
Every year you can
Every
apply,
year, okay.
yes.
And we don't have a maximum on this. It would,
The
There-
2,000.
like
Uh,
2,000 or
2,000. is the
2,000? Okay,
maximum.
sorry, 2,000 is
Yeah.
the maximum. And we can apply every year and it's in February the 1st. So I think at Council Policy Task Force, Mike and Ian, we discussed that we would want to think of an amount because 12,000 seemed a bit low, and we were happy to support some communities that don't always apply and we don't always know about, and I can think of a couple, but I won't throw them out there. But Councillor Pomander, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I just looking at 5.55 and 5.556. So if, so I come in and you give me $2,000 for my, whatever I'm doing, and then if we still have money left in the pot, I can come in and apply again. If there's money left over, or are you not?
You can apply again.
You can.
The organizations who,
Yeah, so
organizations who applied in February may apply a second time.
even though I've already maxed it out, though, I just want to be clear on the max. I've already got the 2,000. You gave me 2,000. And then there's still $5,000 left in the pot. I can come in and apply again.
The way this is worded, it says
That's
any
what-
community capacity program grant will not exceed 2,000. So it would be a second grant if there is money left in the pot, the way that's worded.
So for clarification, that would be two separate grants. So if somebody applied for 2,000, got the 2,000, and then they applied again in July and got the 2,000, those are two separate grants.
Yes, and I think in general, that would be for a different project. These are generally, this isn't like general operation money. It'd be a project that you're doing that we'd give you 2,000 for. And then if you have another project later in the year, we would give you another grant if there's money left over from the February round.
And Nick, does that happen like very
May
frequently?
happen this year.
Okay.
It hasn't happened the last couple of years, but it certainly can happen. Yeah.
That was a step.
Okay. Are there any more questions? I guess one of the ones I'll just throw out there is, do we want to direct staff to look at more funding in that?
That will be a budget.
Budget,
discussion.
just a budget discussion. Okay, all right. And there we go.
So, okay, so $2,000 is the max right now. And I think I missed the point too, where it was program related, not organizationally related. So it's actually so like if you can apply twice, it's per program, not just because it's that organization. Did I miss that? Poverty program.
For
Okay, but I just didn't make
programs.
that.
Or events. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't make that correlation of the two things together. And what is Appendix D? Or are we taking Appendix D out?
I would suggest that we do, but that's just more specific guidelines, and that is the language is related to alignment with strategic
Strategic plan.
plan and things like that.
Yeah, sure. So I think we've been taking appendixes out of everything, so we would do the same here. Get appendices. Yeah, okay.
But go ahead, Nick.
Oh, no, that's really all the comments I have for that section, unless there's any more questions. No?
Mayor McKidd?
I was just gonna, no, you do the.
The next one is just that we put in this grant disclosure. We're required to disclose, so this is just outlining where we would say who we gave grants to in the operations plan.
So that, I guess that is my question. So once we are through budget season and we have allocated all, like, or whatever funding requests have come in and we've allocated them out, how are we and the public going to know that? Because sometimes, I mean, especially when they're, you know, maybe they're smaller amounts for, like, say, $500 under the community capacity grant. We don't typically know about those things, which, you know, I mean, they're not big amounts. However, sometimes you'll get I can't believe you gave money to Fred. And I'm like, I didn't know we gave money to Fred. So you get that little tap on the shoulder. So my question is, are all of these going to be listed somewhere and updated? And how will that work?
These should all be, we should know who we're providing funding to by when the budget passes, and then when the operations, I believe it was in this year's operations plan, all the CPP and SPPs were listed in the ops plan this year, and that's what we would look to continue to do.
Yeah, all grant recipients, including Acadia, and everything under this policy were outlined in the ops plan last year. But then if, say, under some circumstance, additional grants were provided after the publication of the ops plan, we can also, that's where that last line kind of comes in. We would likely also just post it on the website or something of that nature to say, this is, keep us up to date as to, this is the organizations and the amounts that have been granted by the town.
But that's going to be updated regularly, so we'll know that whatever that grant is called, the $2,000 one. So if we say there's going to be $20,000 in that bucket, that'll be updated monthly or regularly or something. What's your thought about that?
Almost all of these grants are going to be done in time to go into the ops plan. Almost every single grant pool or pot is going to be, the decision will be made in enough time to go into the ops plan. Those that aren't made by that point in time, we'd likely just do a simple posting to the website or something of that nature to update it.
But there would be really the only other ones would be the direct to council, so the operating grants, which you would be aware of, and the capital ones. And the other opportunity would be if there's money left over in this program after the February round, in August, we would do another round, but they would be all at once.
It's
And
August,
those would
right?
come out
It's August,
separately.
sorry, yes.
Otherwise, everything else goes direct to council, so you'd be aware.
That's part of the administrative, benefit of doing these in cohorts and only having a very small number of cohorts, is that we're not getting them, trickling in all through the year and having to continuously update.
Mayor McKibb?
It would be nice, I think, for an easy place to find them. So when because we put this information on our website, grant application, so if I wanted to apply next year, it lives on our website all of the time. If the recipients were also listed at the bottom, I think they do that at EKM Health, like they have a list all the time on who they've given it to. And as it might trigger somebody else to go, oh, that one did it, I can too, kind of thing. Or what the one that they might be looking at, just gives some people some transparency.
Thank you. I don't mean to stir the pot or anything, but I mean, you have a job as a community development manager and Barb also is the EDI representative. So not like every single amount, if they come to you and ask, we'll say this needs to be a grant. Maybe some of it comes out of your own budget. Is that true? Or do I have to, I don't mean it to sound like that, but I know some people have said, oh, well, and it could not be a large amount. And that's why when people come and ask you, I didn't know they received this money. So something like $100, maybe you just said that's going to help the town with some EDI initiatives. Doesn't need to be a grant. I can't speak for the budget, but.
Right, we treat those more as partnership, like partnering with an organization that fits within the kind of programming and the values that we have for our regular recreation programming and events.
Exactly.
And so yes, we can support in those ways, but it wouldn't be considered a grant.
Yeah, they're not a grant, but
Right.
they may try to apply. They may say apply for a grant, but it may be low and you may say, oh, I could help you with this. Just to be clarifying when people were walking about town that this wasn't a grant, you were a partner. This is a recreation program. Yeah.
Correct.
So
Yes.
I just wanted to be clear about that. I think we did talk about it in the council policy task force.
Yeah, I think I'd clarify even further is we wouldn't even necessarily consider them a partner as much as a service provider. We've retained them to provide a service. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that clarity. Do we have any more? Oh, are you finished? Sorry.
That's it.
That's
on
it?
that
Okay.
Section, and that is the end of the policy part. Everything else is the appendices.
So I will look over to CAO. Is there anything that we need to clarify? And I will look over to Nick to see if there's anything that's not clarified that you need more information on before we move on.
Just, I guess that is everyone okay with having the policy sort of end there without any of these appendices? There's reference to the evaluation criteria and things like that, but those can exist outside of the policy and inform how we distribute the funding. And then just the couple of things that we are going to pull out are like the application kind of timing for the one-time operating and capital. Other than that, I think this is all pretty repetitive or can be communicated outside of the policy to like the prospective applicants. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mayor McKay?
So just a clarity question. So I'm fine with all of the appendices and schedules living outside of the policy. My second question, that's fine. So then the next question is, where do those live? Because if they don't live in a public place, say, so if I wanted to apply, and I go look at the policy and I think, oh, I think that fits me. But there's more criteria and evaluations that live in the background. Are those publicly out there? Cause I might disqualify myself after I look at them. I'm like, oh yeah, that I'm asking for too much. It's not part of my budget. I'm asking whatever the case may be. Cause otherwise I'm sending it to you, waiting for you to respond to me, right? And then it's more work for you. And when I could have just done it myself.
At a minimum, they'll be on the website.
At a minimum,
These will all be listed on the website with links to the application
Gotcha.
forms and the criteria, the guidelines, all
So
those
it's still
things.
out there for people to
Right.
kind of look at, just not part of the policy. Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else that you wanted to point out, Nick?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I feel like, council's had a pretty good discussion on that. There feels like we've had a lot of input on this. I'm gonna look to the CAO should there is a motion, would the motion be put off for another time with the changes to come back?
Yeah, I'd suggest that council, we've received a lot of really good feedback. I'd suggest rather than introducing the motion today, that we take this back, make the adjustments that have been suggested, and then council will have another opportunity to approve a clean copy.
Okay, so that's where it stands, and this discussion, I guess we'll move on to the next. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick, and, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mayor McCann.
My only question is, how does that affect our budget and how does that affect the organizations that want to apply for these? Because that's another, if this is coming back to committee of the whole, that's coming back in March.
So, yeah, so we've already launched intake of the community partnership program grants. That
Wanted effects,
closed just the
yeah.
other day. We continue to have ongoing intake of the one-time operating and capital grants. And the one that it would affect the most is the strategic partnership program. And so what we would do, given the timing, is once the policy is approved, we would issue that expression of interest. And then council will have the opportunity, then we'll go through the process. Council will have the opportunity to evaluate and pick their partners. We know enough at this stage, I believe, that we can recommend and council would ultimately approve a pot for the strategic partnership program. That would be part of the draft operating budget. And then once that expression of interest goes out, comes back, and council makes final evaluations, I think we would have our budget close enough to the mark that if then there was a small variance from what council wanted to do after evaluating the applications, we could figure that out.
And the delay by a month is not hurting anyone who is putting in funding. Like, it's not gonna happen in April. No, we'll get a new one. So
Yeah.
nobody's gonna get any funding until we say they're gonna get the funding, which means it's not approved till the end of March at this stage.
Yeah.
By the time it gets to council, it'll be part of the budget. We will not hand out any money till the 1st of June.
I don't know if I go quite to that
The end of May.
date, but yeah.
May.
Yeah,
some
by the time it
person
gets-
in there.
If it goes through council and then it comes back
Yeah.
and we have to look at them, approve
Yeah.
them and pass it through council, we're looking at.
But
I'm just
We,
asking the question. 'cause I
so-
don't want
so-
to Get hurt by us delaying it.
so another option is we can clean this up and have it brought to council on the 17th. If folks would like to accelerate this a little bit more.
If there's no one in there that we know of that it's hurting at this stage, let's take the time. If it's not, then I think we should think about it. I'm just putting it on people's radar.
I'll speak for Nick. It's not going to be a huge body of work for us to clean this up and have it ready for you on the 17th.
with the revisions we've.
That sounds like the best option for me because that's where it would go from here anyway. So there's not a whole lot of changes, but there's enough changes that we would want to actually maybe have a little bit more discussion on it and have a look at it. So I'm looking around the table. Is that fine for people, for them to bring it back on the 17th? Yeah.
As long as that's not a.
It's not a-
Yeah, we can do
Yeah,
that.
okay, so that looks, the nodding saying the 17th at council to keep everything streamlined.
Do we need a motion for that to, no, okay.
No, we can take that
Take that.
direction.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Very confusing.
That was a nice reminder.
Yep. Yeah. So we're moving on to information reports of the information 005-2026 operation plan, and this is the first draft. CAO
Thank you very much.
started
Chair.
on that and
Yeah.
then.
Find my page, here we are. All right. So as part of the annual budget process, staff have prepared an initial draft of the 2026-27 operations plan. So the ops plan is intended to provide an overview of the key initiatives for the upcoming fiscal year, along with the core work that occupies the town's resources. So just as we'll retrench ourselves in our timeline, if we can scroll down just a little bit, Laura. So this is you've received this a couple of times now, but this is our operating plan and budget process timeline. So we are at the green line, made a small adjustment because of our regular early week storms. We didn't actually get to review the draft budget as a senior leadership team when we had originally planned. So we just did that yesterday. We are still on track for the remaining time dates that have been identified there, however. So this is council's first opportunity to review and provide feedback on the proposed activities and the direction of the ops plan. The activities proposed represent staff's understanding of council's priorities based on the strategic plan that's been approved and other plans and decisions that have come in addition to that. It also continues work that began in the current fiscal year and remains unfinished. And it also reflects staff's advice to forward various operational priorities. So at this meeting, staff are seeking direction from the committee to continue the development of initiatives that are proposed here. And those will then also be reflected in the first draft of the budget. So what you're going to see today in terms of proposed initiatives are early drafts, so they're not fully built out. There's enough here to be able to give you a good description as to what's being proposed. But it's also at an early enough stage that if council says, no, we don't want to necessarily go down that road, we haven't put an immense amount of resources behind it at this stage. We'll continue to build that initiative. So before we get into what's being proposed for the upcoming year, I'll give you a rundown of what we have. This is the final kind of update of the 2025-26 ops plan. And so I'll just refer you into your memo. It's page 3 of 5 in this particular IR. In previous reports, we've lumped together both in progress and ongoing initiatives. So after 2 or 3 reports now, we kind of decided to separate those because the ongoing initiatives are characterized as ones that really don't have an end date. So by that definition, they are properly categorized with either complete or in progress, depending on how you look at it. It's things that are going to be going on all the time, no matter what. So rather than putting them in one or the other, we separated them completely so you can see just the number of initiatives that are just considered to be ongoing. So here's a little bit of an update based on an additional months of work from the previous update. So we are now at 40 initiatives or almost 46% in progress. 17 initiatives are ongoing. 28 initiatives or 32.2% are now complete, and there are still 2 initiatives that have yet to start. So looking at the 40 initiatives that are in progress, 7 of them are expected to be finished by or near the end of the fiscal year. And a number of those are outlined there. 30 of them are expected to transition into next year's ops plan. And a number of them are outlined there. You'll see more of them when you actually look into the details of the ops plan. I already spoke about the separation of the ongoing and in progress initiatives. So what that means in total, based on projection to the end of the fiscal year, is 60% of all initiatives that are in the 25-26 ops plan will be either completed, projected to be completed, or are ongoing and really do not have a definite end. They're considered that ongoing work. Substantial progress has been made on a further 35% of initiatives that are proposed to be carried forward into next year's ops plan. So that's at a high level. I've also provided in your package that table that you folks have become more accustomed to looking at, that gives a per initiative update on where things stand as of today, and projects it forward to where we're expecting to see it at the end of the fiscal year, and then also commentary as to whether or not it would carry over. So all of that is in your package in a table related to this year's ops plan. So before I go to next year's proposed ops plan, I'll stop there if there's any questions on this year's ops plan.
Thank you for that, Glenn. It was actually really informative, and it showed a lot of the things that we've actually been doing. So I'll open it up to council and see if there's any questions. I see you ready, Councillor Palmer.
Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment. I really like this report. I mean, it's crystal clear, and I'm really impressed with that report. It's pretty insightful. I like that one.
Okay. Mayor McKay.
So this is the first year we've done this. My question is, going through this exercise, I think we realized that, there's things that are just part of everyone's core jobs.
Yeah.
So that's, so even though it says, infinity or whatever, it's ongoing forever because it's part of the core values. Have we gotten to a point where we say, and should they be separated? I mean, you did it in that synopsis, but in this is our core, and this will go on forever, and that takes up 65% of our, and every department will be different, I'm sure, but my core parts take up 65% of my job, so I have 30% left to do some special things, and I'm going to leave 5% to go, halfway through the year, this group around the table is going to throw something wonky at us, or somebody else will.
Five.
All right, 5%. I'm sorry, I was being kind to us, not you. But have we gotten to that part of analysis of where time lies to give us an idea of what we can put on the plate with a reasonable assumption that it will be completed in the next year?
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
It did make sense. It's great. It's a fantastic question. It's something that we continue to work with and work through. I think the delineation that you just described, we'll keep working. I think that's a really intuitive way to look at it. We'll keep working on a framework like that. I think the other piece to mention is that so last year we made an effort to try to communicate and present that ongoing body of work, those ongoing infinity items of work. There's still a very significant body of work that is like that is not captured in this plan. And so that's really where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, is to put enough in here to be reflective of reality, but also not create a document that's kind of unwieldy, if you will. So yeah, I think you've spoken to a breakdown in a layout of initiatives that I think we can take that and run with it a little bit more and see if we can find something that is more reflective of our body of work than it is currently. We'll keep working with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want everybody's job descriptions in them, because I mean, that's right, not to that level of detail, but that's sort of.
Yeah.
Give
I-
it those ballparks.
I like that. I like the concept behind that layout. We'll play more with that to see if we can, because we're also, that's part of the feedback we wanted today was around that layout, particularly around, again, what we tried to do last year was delineate between the planning efforts, small p planning efforts of things, that we're not going to actually do it this year. We're going to plan for it so we can do it next year.
Yeah.
So we made that distinction in the ops plan as well. But we're very open to taking some of the feedback as to what worked and what didn't in terms of communicating that workload, because we don't feel that we hit the nail on the head. We feel like we can continue to evolve that. So yeah, that kind of feedback is very welcome.
But I agree with Councilor Plummer. This format is great. It lays it out so clear and concise for anyone who wants to read it. So that's great. It was that pinpointing
Yep.
of things. And my only other question is, did we compare this to, because most of this came from the what we heard work that we did with council, everyone did, to say this would be our ops plan. Did we go back and see what this was compared to that to find the gaps that, that we didn't put in this year's plan that we could pull out to go to next year's plan? And maybe that's part of the work we've got to do next.
So what we heard that council created after the last election, that is essentially rolled into the strategic plan. So what you folks have given us direction through the strategic plan of this is what to be worked on. So we've taken the basis of if it's not in the strategic plan, it didn't rise to the level of wanting to be included in the strategy. So the ops plan as we move forward is going to be reflective of the strategic plan versus some of those particular pieces in the what we heard report.
I just have one thing for clarification because your two brains sometimes work together. So I just want to clarify one thing. So when Mayor McKay did talk about the ongoing, and I'm speaking on this because of the plain language and accessibility, and then you discussed like some ongoing could be like core, work that staff is doing, and some is just maybe a project that's, going to take a little bit longer, but it will be complete and it will go into another category. So were you talking about having ongoing plus core, or you're just going to take that back to staff and put that in for clarification? So there could be possibly another symbol, or you could have possibly incorporate it with ongoing I'm just talking about for simplicity's sake.
Yeah. So what I took from the exchanges, we've got up until recently, we had two symbols. We had that ongoing and that in progress symbol.
And I understand the distinction on that. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
So what the mayor had just referred to is basically making all of the ongoing stuff synonymous with just core work. Like that's
Okay.
never going to go away. That's always going
Okay.
to be there in some way, shape, or form.
So that will be more associated with the in progress symbol than the core.
No, it wouldn't be.
maybe
It wouldn't
not
be associated with in
necessarily.
progress. Pulling that out, basically pulling it out completely,
Okay.
and giving it its own area of the ops plan to say this is your core body of work. What that allows us to do is create a baseline to say any project-based work, which would be in progress, complete, or not yet started, that's in addition to. So if your core work is 75% of what you do in a month, then your project-based work can't be any more than 20% if you're going to leave the 5% available for crisis.
Okay. Nope,
Or
that makes sense.
change.
So
Is that-
basically it will be, does
Yeah.
everybody understand? That's why I re-asked it because, yeah,
It is,
put your mic on.
is core work stuff that's mandated by the MGA?
Core work is stuff that's mandated by the MGA, that is required by you folks, as in we have an ongoing program responsibility. So an easy example of this is all of the recreation programming, day camps, after school care, all that kind of stuff. That's not mandated by the MGA. Those are existing programs of the town that you folks have approved. So that's our core work. Even things of, keeping the streets clear of snow and properly salted, that's not mandated by the MGA, but that's our core work. So it'd be all of those pieces.
Thank you. I think that clears up a little bit further, and I think that it'll be even easier for us to read and explain. So
That's a really good, we'll play with that more. I think if we can find a way to present that through those tables in that way, I think that'd be helpful.
okay, thank you. So we will move on. What else do we need?
So unless there's any other questions on last year's plan, I can move into this year's plan.
Okay, that sounds good. Is that good for everybody? Okay.
So, the first draft of this year's plan, I've given you a list of some of the changes there in your IR. So narrative sections are being updated. There was previous reference to the previous council's strategic plan. That's all been updated with your new and improved and approved strategic plan. The financial sections will be updated to the current year once that information is approved and available. Many of the graphics have been updated with new and fresh pictures and material.
Can I just make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Laura, you're driving this. Can you just go back to where they got the picture there? Just come back here again. No, go back further. Right, next page up, I think. Right here, what town council? Town council, I don't like the way it's, keep rolling down. I think down. One more page, one more, like, keep going, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing, don't take this the wrong way, deputy mayor, but you weren't elected deputy mayor. There was nothing in the ballot box that said deputy mayor. So that statement, we didn't elect.
That true for a 4-year term. Yeah, I guess that's technically correct.
It's no difference to me. I mean, it makes.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's not quite.
It would change
We
if
can-
somebody
we
else
can-
does it in the next
We
few
can
years, but you
elaborate
can,
to have
you can,
that
yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
Yeah.
No offense taken there, but serpometer.
That's payback for comment about your shit.
Don't worry, there's another one here.
So upwards of 30 initiatives that were in last year's plan are going to simply move forward into this year's plan. And again, I want to communicate, I know this council knows this, but I want to communicate it for the record as well. That doesn't mean that those projects, those initiatives, it doesn't mean anything other than the work on those projects and initiatives are going to straddle 2 fiscal years. The work will continue on those. It's not a commentary as to, oh, it didn't get done or something of that nature. A substantial amount of work was done on almost every single one of those 30 carryover initiatives, but it's just not quite at the point of being able to say it's complete. Summary tables have been updated to reflect proposed 26-27 activities, and I'm going to get to the summary tables in a minute. We've kept those summary tables. This is getting into the back office side of things. One of the challenges, one of the learnings we took from last year is we created a narrative document in the ops plan and then had to report on it. And we didn't have kind of the back structure to be able to do that reporting easily. So we've created, the reason the summary tables are not in the ops plan yet is because we're keeping them completely separate and building a reporting framework around them from day one. So that way, when we do come forward to report, it's a little bit easier to be able to do so. And once we're happy with where the summary tables are, we'll just simply pull them out of that report framework and plunk them into the narrative document. So we've always got kind of a master sheet of initiatives that speak to the description of the initiative, the budgets around the initiative, the timeline of the initiative, and then the various reports of the initiative. It's all kept in one spot. So it'll make it a little bit easier on our side to be able to do that. Maybe I'll stop there. I've got a series of questions at the beginning of the IR, Laura, if you don't mind going back to those. We'll go through the questions if you'd like to, Chair. But in addition to that, if you've got any more detailed feedback on anything that you've seen in terms of the narrative document or the tables, we'll take that as well. But maybe I'll leave it there, Chair. And if you want to go through the questions, we can do it that way.
All right. I know we did go through that pretty quickly, so I'll just open it up. Does anybody have any general feedback on the Councillor Butler?
I just have 2 things that I wanted to mention. It's on page 18, the community development section. First of all, I love the photo. If there's just a way to add where it says the town is committed to creating a vibrant community and in doing so coordinates and assists with festivals and events such as, what is the, I'm lost for the words, but I wanted to bring it up. It's like such as, but not excluding or including. Because it's more than the events that are in there that we contribute to. If there's just that little bit of.
But not limited to.
But not limited to, that's it right there. And there was that, and then the only other comment was, oh, and I just had the page and I lost it. Our committee, page 23. The Accessibility Advisory Committee, can I be listed as the alternate for that? The other alternates are listed in the other committees, but it doesn't have alternate by my name in that committee. That was it. I love the layout and the new photos.
Thank you for picking those up in the EDI lens on the community development. I like that, so thank you. Are there any more comments about the overall plan? Or anybody picked up? No? Okay, Mayor McKay?
Yeah, no, I like the plan too. I'm curious too, when I go through the little charts that are, sorry, on the current year one, I should
Mhm.
go back. Because some of them are, even though they're operational, they're in our capital budget too. So when we go back, because even some of the lists that was at 30% done, even though this is an ops plan, those are capital are in there. So do you want to clarify how?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll try to clarify and tell me if I'm close to the mark.
okay.
So last year we made the call to, and I don't remember why, but we did some separation between capital initiatives and operating initiatives that on reflection did lead to ambiguity as to what's capital and what's operating. So what we're proposing to do this year is you will still have the approved capital plan in the back of the ops plan as an appendice. We're not removing those appendices. But all of the capital initiatives that are being done this year will not live separately from a department. They will be in the Department of Planning and Public Works as initiatives. So as I'll give you a simple example, last year we had the stormwater and sidewalk work that was done in front of the Al Whittle Theater as an operating initiative. Now you can make an argument either way as to whether or not that was an operating or a capital initiative. To us, that means something. To the broader public, it means nothing. Just do it. Exactly. Yeah. So with an acknowledgement of what this document is supposed to be an effective means to communicate to the community what we are doing. The adjustment that we're looking at making is rather than really doing a hard segregation of operating and capital initiatives, simply including the capital initiatives mostly in the Department of Planning and Public Works. That's where almost all of them belong. One or two of them might be outside that, but almost all of them will be right into the Department of Planning and Public Works tables. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what the next question is. Sorry. I see it, but some of them are more comments. So this isn't really a direction, but you've asked, the town is putting greater emphasis on relationship approach to its work, which takes greater investment in time and effort. What, did you want any feedback on that? You're just, it's,
Where's that one?
oh, am I in the same one? Am I in the wrong?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Just at the very beginning of the IR.
Oh, yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, go back up, Laura. Okay, yeah. So we just did, do you have any?
Yes, okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I should have looked up
Yeah,
there,
no,
but
it's
I
okay.
didn't. I looked on my other one. Did the initiatives briefly described in the attached tables reflects council's strategic plan? Does people feel really comfortable with that? So I'm seeing nodding, yes, yes. Oh, I can't see your mic from here, Councillor. No. I can't see it on now from there now. Councillor William. Yeah, it's okay. That's why I have people to tell me things. That's why people keep me in line. So Councillor Williams, go ahead.
Well, it was simply Councillor Butler reminded me that under the RCMP committee, I'm an alternate And I wouldn't have brought it up had you not
Yeah.
done so. And I assume we're going to talk about fireworks at some stage in a few minutes.
Yes, I believe we are on those three items, CEO, are we just deciding whether we want to move them forward to the
Yeah, that's what,
budget?
that's
So
what
they're
the
just
discussion will
to
be.
move forward to budget. Okay,
yeah.
so we'll go through these questions. I'm back on track now, everyone. We'll go through these questions and then we'll hit those three ones that are on there. So are there any specific initiatives that are among the highest priorities for council that maybe you don't think are highlighted? So Mayor McKay?
And maybe I've missed it, but where does Main Street live on this?
Yes.
That was mine.
Main Street is in there. Just give me a
I
moment.
know AT is on there, so I mean, I think that's part of it, but the crosswalks, and the traffic flow, because we did that consultation. Potholes and fixing the spring.
So on page, is my page number there? Yeah, page 138 of 154. We give you long packages.
No.
Yeah. That's the planning and public works table. Just beyond halfway, Main Street traffic management is there as an initiative. The 26, 27 table, not the 25, 26 table.
Okay, so for me, that is one, and I know we're working on
Yeah.
with consultants on that. When is that coming back to us? Because I think that was probably number one on our,
Do you want to speak to that?
what we heard.
Yeah. I'm gonna invite Director Lake to speak to that.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that one.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. We are meeting internally about that with consultants this week and tomorrow. Yeah. So we're just planning kind of a progress update with council to come in before the budget. We have a placeholder in our draft capital budget, and that's really the Main Street. The other pieces of Main Street that I think you're referring to, like the repairs, maintenance, resurfacing, that's all in the capital, and we should probably try to tie that together in here because a lot of that is overlapping. It's just the study that you're referring to with Happy Cities and RV Anderson. They just delivered us a What We Heard report and outputs from all the traffic counts. So we're just processing that, and we want them to present that to council as soon as possible. Yeah.
Well, so I assume that then that the maintenance of Main Street, which we've already looked at our capital, so the east and west end, the active transportation, I mean, that's sort of all one piece. I mean, they're different pieces of work, but they do all like merge like this together. So that'll all come back. And will we be able to start and finish it this summer/fall?
You'll see. So
Specific.
What we've been working on specifically is pricing for East Main Street. We've also been working on the rehabilitation of Victoria, and we've been working on Earnscliffe. So a lot of effort has gone into making those happen. We'll come back with what the active transportation work will be, but that's a lot of overlap with intersections. Specifically, whether we do things in the downtown core that come out of this study, I think will be at the will of council, and whether we can actually get detailed design work completed. There may be some easy pieces, and that's kind of where we tried to steer them a bit, is everything doesn't have to cost $2 and $3 million to make improvements. So I think there'll be something that we can do for sure. I know that there's also some significant investment that they're steering us towards, which I don't think we'll complete in 2026. It'll be things that'll need design work, and it'll be within the future capital budget. I'm talking about things like if council wanted to put lights in, if council wanted to put in bigger intersection improvements. This study isn't bringing us a detailed design package that would be ready to tender. So I can give other examples, if there was curb extensions, things like that. Absolutely, we can look at doing things like that this season. Those are pretty easy for us to pull off, but anything that's going to be more complex. I think we're trending on maxing our capacity now with what we've presented in the capital budget.
I guess from my perspective, I think we said this through what we heard and part of our strategic plan and ops plan was we've got to try something on Main Street and we've got to, for us, it's year 2. We've only got 2 more left. And this is one of the things I think all of us basically promised. So, it would be on the list of things. It's high on my list. Everyone else can say their piece, but it's high on my list.
And can I just ask a clarifying question? You're talking about the downtown intersections, and I'm referencing kind of Gasbro through to University as far as really wanting to do something, not necessarily, I mean, it's probably but the East Main Street resurfacing is equivalent priority.
Sure, they're all gonna come together, but how do we make that flow? It was managing that expectation, which we all talked about, was, yes, you're never gonna alleviate traffic, pedestrian or car on Main Street, that it's our Main Street. But how do we make those 2 intersection of things better, smoother, and the traffic flow go better for everyone? That was on the list, so that, I think it's the one that we didn't really do anything with this year. I mean, we started working on it, but we didn't like implement any change on Main Street this year.
You totally understand. And I think for the CAO and I think we'll have to get that in front of you almost
Soon.
as soon as possible so that we can plan some progress, I'll call it, this season.
Yeah, and so the work that has been done on that so far, like I said, Happy Cities and RV Anderson presented to council, did the data collection that was required, interviewed. I think they interviewed most of, if not all of you folks, and additional stakeholders as well. So we've received the report, just received the report back on that, and that's the body of work that we're going to have to organize and bring forward to you folks in the not terribly distant future. So progress, we're working towards a series of interventions that will try to alleviate some of the challenges there. Yeah, and so you'll see more in the not so distant future on that particular file. But to your point, I guess I'll just wrap up the Main Street stuff maybe. There are multiple initiatives that deal with Main Street, whether it be through capital or AT or this intersection work. Each of them are captured in our proposed ops plan. And I think we can take from the discussion that Main Street is and will remain a top priority of council. And so we'll make sure to show that through line of all of those initiatives, how they are coming together and trying to improve conditions on Main Street. Main is the main.
I'm not sure, Councillor Palmer, you can decide.
Oh, okay. Just speaking about Main Street, the thing that I get asked, well, after potholes, is bollards. And are they going back up is one thing. And if they do go back up, because they have to, do they all go back up? Or just some of them go back up? That's what I like to have an answer to give people.
So on West Main Street, this coming season, we're going to be finishing our transmission line project, which will disrupt a portion of the right of way. So depending on the timing of that, West Main Street would for sure have that involved. The rest of the season on West Main Street could have an installation. What we've talked about just as recent as yesterday is spacing and learning from our experience. And I think there's a lot of really valuable feedback that we've received. So I think we can do a better job when we do put them out. On East Main, it's going to depend on contractor timing. We're really gunning to have East Main done early in the season. If that happens, there could be a period in the second part of the season. We don't have enough information right now to make a promise on that. I was just in the back with our communications person, Barb Shaw, and we just set up a meeting to talk about rolling out communication around what we're going to be doing this summer. So I'll bring back more on that and other AT initiatives probably within the next month, just because I think there needs to be a fulsome, full understanding of what the rollout this season is going to be, so everyone can get behind that.
And I'll just put a fine point on that as well, just so that we're all on the same page. The intention is to put the bollards, the flex posts back out. We will learn from the previous year's experience in terms of spacing, location, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that will disrupt that are capital and operating priorities that don't match with it. So if we have to dig up the street for any particular reason, then we're not going to put the bollards in that location. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Palmer?
Well, I have two questions. One is just to expand a little bit on what Director Lake said. What's happened on the west end?
This year's
What
budget,
transmission?
we have a water transmission line that we've been working on over the last.
Water, sorry.
Yeah, so it goes from our wells up and underneath Highway 101. We've been working on replacing the existing line, and we have one section to complete. We are with the UARB right now, just finalizing approval, and we have the tender package ready to go out. We're hoping in the next few weeks.
Sorry, just the way you said that, I thought I was missing something. The other thing that, since we're talking about what we heard and what we want to do, is where are we? Where are we with stormwater? I know that we've had this report that's coming back to us. There's another report coming back to us. That was what I heard a lot of when I was banging on doors during the election. And fortunately, we had a very dry summer last summer, so it didn't really affect us too much. But what have we done and what are we going to do? I guess would be my question.
If I can, before Director Lake responds. So we do have stormwater as part of the upcoming year's ops plan. If it's all right with council, we can comment, we can provide more feedback and an update on that the next time we talk capital. Just in light of time, with what we need to get through in terms of the agenda today, if I might suggest, Chair, I think we're taking some relatively positive feedback on what's presented so far in the ops plan. There'll be other opportunities to further comment in the ops plan. If we wanted to jump to the 3 topics of interest that emerged and that have not been incorporated so far and looking for council's feedback, can we hit those and then, yeah.
Absolutely. So the first one is heritage and culture work. We did talk about this at PAC. So I'll open that up to council for comment. Mayor McKay.
I'm curious about what that, Director, like if you have any sense of what that is, or is that the question? Do we want staff to come back with a recommendation of what that would look like? Those are 2 different things, right?
I think we're pretty clear on built heritage and what our tools are and what we could bring you as far as a project, so to speak, around that. When we expand that, I think we would, and you don't have to give it right now, but we would really welcome some feedback if it's by email or reach out to us for a chat, just on what comes to mind when you think of a piece of work around heritage and culture. We've actually been thinking a lot about this in our office over the last few days. I have a few pages of notes. There was a really great event at the museum on Sunday that certainly can inform some of that. There's a number of really great residents that have sent us some feedback, but we're trying to really sort of hone something in that I can bring here for just an initial discussion. But right now, it's probably a bit much for us to take on. When you look at, the city of Halifax, places have these heritage and culture plans. Is that what we want? And so we're just sort of asking what does the deliverable look like and the outcomes from your perspective for this to be successful? Because we have talked about this for a number of years. We're keen to take it on. It's just we want to scope it with you properly.
I guess, yeah, we're looking for a few more data points so that we can properly pull something together that is reasonably close to what your expectation would be.
So I'm interested in seeing what it is. I guess I would like to, not that I don't need to see 3 pages of the ideas, but like if we were to say like, yes, built heritage or something specific. And if there was things that came from the meeting on Sunday that were like, oh, those would be kind of neat and those might inform it. I would be interested to hear what those are. I don't have anything right now to say, oh, that's it, but I would be interested in hearing something come back.
So yeah, if there's interest in it coming back, I would actually love to sort of facilitate just a presentation on the topic to maybe generate more discussion. That I think that would be a really great next step. We have some pretty concrete ideas on what we could do as far as putting our capacity towards something and putting a budget towards something at the end of the day is what we're discussing. So we would be excited if there's will to bring that back.
I'm fine with that. I think that's probably a better idea. I'm no expert in that area, so I'm looking at the nods. We'll go with that one. So that's clarity on that one. Oh, sorry, moving on to the volunteer recognition event. We had that.
Yeah, so
The process for it.
yeah, so last year, quite late in the game, we took council's direction and did an event related to volunteer recognition, but we continued to hear afterwards, I think formally and informally, that there was a desire for council to be more involved in the process, for the process to be documented and clarified in some ways, and all of those pieces. So if there's continued desire, we can include that in our ops plan to essentially clarify process around volunteer recognition and provide something to council for feedback as to the degree to which council would like to be involved in that.
Thank you. Would there be suggesting a policy associated with that, or?
It could be policy, could be a process of some sort. It likely would end up in policy if we're going to take council direction.
Okay.
But yeah, some sort of clear documentation as to what's going to occur.
So I'm kind of seeing nodding around the head. So we're straight on that. Okay. And now we'll move on to the fireworks at town events. Should they be used or permitted? So we're deciding whether we say yes or no, so it gets moved on from here.
Yeah, you're deciding whether or not to look at it.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
There's no debate today about fireworks. It's whether or not to
Have a look at it.
include it in our ops plan.
Okay. Is everybody clear on what the question exactly is? Okay. So I'll open that up to council for discussion. Councillor Butler?
At the moment, it's just Canada Day and Mud Creek Days? Just Mud Creek Days. Okay. And what is the cost associated with just that one event? Yeah.
Just the fireworks.
Yeah.
We've been spending,
July.
I believe, around between 6,000 and 7,000 is about what we would spend.
And it's generally the local fireworks company that the town uses. That's based in Grand Prairie.
Yes.
Fireworks Effects. Thank you.
Since we are directing staff and it goes into budget, so does anybody want to open up the dialogue or have any more questions associated with that? Oh, sorry, I can't see it. I can't see it. You got to put your hand up. Thank you though, Mayor McKay.
Yeah, thank you. I brought this up 6 months ago and presented CEO Horn with what could be described as a presentation illustrating why I felt that fireworks were a bad idea, especially during bird breeding season. And I provided a fair amount of data which indicated that birds breed from very early in March, in fact, right through to the end of October. So I felt that fireworks were a bad thing from an environmental point of view. I also felt that there were health benefits by not having fireworks for those that are sensitive to noise, and a few other odds and ends. And I'm very happy to make that available to those that have interest in what I have to say, far more than I can do in this format.
Would anybody else like to comment?
I have a deaf dog, so it doesn't impact me personally, but there have been some really serious situations that have led to the death of animals like horses. So I would like to see it looked into for sure, as would Howard.
So to be clear, Saya, we're not deciding right now whether we want fireworks or not. We're just deciding whether we want it to be looked at. So there's another point that we would actually vote on it as council to say yes or no. Okay,
Yeah.
so is everybody clear on that? Okay. Keeping in mind that that would be staff's time and effort to be going and looking at it. That would be the thing. Councillor Palmer.
Also keeping in mind that there's kind of a bit of a deadline too, because we would have to book or not book the fireworks guys in, it's just sort of, there's a timeline involved.
We would do this basically immediately. Based on if it's something that we would want to look at for the upcoming fireworks season, we would look at this very soon if it's in the ops plan.
Councillor Butler.
I think for $7,000, we could do a lot more than just fireworks for the community to be able to include everybody.
Mayor McKay.
This is going to be controversial no matter what way you flip this. So I completely get that it's not great for the birds. I also think if you say we're never going to have any fun, that's going to be what the message is. Regardless if that's what we say or not, that's what the message is going to be. I actually thought $6,000 was low. So, and then because I looked at the crowd that was out there, and there were thousands of people out there enjoying the music and the fireworks. So I know we're not making a decision on what it is. I'm actually happy to leave it as once and only once per year, but that this is going to bring people out in droves one way or the other, and there is no winning on the topic. So if we think that's a valuable use of staff time for us to come back, go for it. I'm just not sure. I think there's just no winning, so.
I agree. I totally agree with Mayor McKay, because the feedback that I got from that was they were the best they ever were, and they were so happy. And I watched them from my house, and there was spectacular. So there is no winning on this. I guess what we have to weigh as council, is this something where staff is kind of overworked and overburdened and a lot of stuff that we want for them to bring back a report for us to discuss on it. So we can do that. That's at the will of council. So do I want to, I'm looking at you, Mayor McKay. Do I want to sort of take a consensus on vote to sort of see who wants this to bring back? And again, it doesn't mean that we are voting on it. It means that staff will be looking at it and bringing it back to council. So that is the question on the table. So I'll kind of go around. I've got the impression from Councillor Williams, it's a yes. Councillor Elliott's a yes. Councillor Palmer is a yes.
I'm still confused so a report will come back about about the events of Mud Creek, including?
No, they'll just come back on sort of like Howard described what the impact is on the fireworks. I'm assuming, I'm not sure who's going to be doing it. Glenn can clarify this a little bit more and what staff will be bringing back to council.
Yeah, we'll provide, if it's the wishes of council to include this in the ops plan, we'll provide background and considerations and different options for council's consideration, whether it be for the continued use of fireworks as we've been using them, or the non-use of fireworks and various other pieces. So you'll get a full report from council on the current situation and what options you've got.
So that's the clarity. It's a full report instead of us not knowing. Councillor Williams has a lot of the information, but we're just discussing, should we pass it on to staff? So I've heard 3 yeses around, and I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I have to direct to the staff.
No,
So
I
that
like being
3,
informed. I feel like I already know what fireworks do to the environment, but never hurts to learn a little bit more.
oh, sorry, Councillor
Oh,
Williams.
simply that I'm very happy for the information that I presented to Glenn should go to whoever needs to know. There's also going to be a quarterly publication put out by the Blomden Naturalists that's going to contain a report on fireworks that should be coming out within a month, I would think.
Mayor McKay?
I'm not closed-minded, so I'm happy to learn about anything. However, I do not think it should bump Main Street, our facilities assessment, our stormwater. If you're asking me, is that if fireworks is the work of the staff trumping all of that, I'd have to say no, because I'm happy to have it on the list. I just don't think it should be the very first thing you do when we walk out of here, because it doesn't hit the list for me in that way. Personally, I think Main Street, stormwater, the facilities, and all of the other things we didn't do last year still have to be finished.
Mhm. Yeah, I do agree. It's a balancing act. And I mean, I can't, I can look to CAO and say, how much staff time do you think this is going to be? Because there's so many important things. And again, I know that we're not voting on this now, and I want to make sure that I make an informed decision, as I'm sure everybody else does around the council. And I'm sure you can't really answer that, but I do agree with Mayor McKay.
Yeah, I can't give you a sense of how much staff time it would be. It's always more than you think.
Mhm.
But I couldn't tell you exactly how much staff time it's going to take. We can, though, I mean, taking the direction, if it is the will of council to have more review of this. Again, we asked you earlier where the priorities are, and we've taken note of where the priorities are. So if and when we do come up to having to prioritize certain work, that's the purpose of asking that priorities question, is to say we'll do if we have to do trade-offs, we know which one to trade off.
So in effort of transparency and fairness, I would be in favor of getting a report back, you know, to go through the steps of this and learn a little bit more to make an informed decision. That's my opinion. And Mayor McKay. Okay, so we do have a consensus. It'll go to staff. Yeah. Okay, thank you. CEO, I'm looking at you as we're going to have a little bit of an agenda change. So would this be the right timing for it? And I do ask you, if we do have to come back tomorrow night, which it looks like it will we still be discussing the ops plan? Or do we have enough on that?
Maybe I'll just take a quick pulse of council. I think we've received a pretty good amount of feedback on the various questions that we've asked here. Does council want a little bit more time with the ops plan tomorrow night? Because we can either end it now, or we can continue conversation during the overflow on the ops plan. You will have another kick at the can at this. You're going to see the ops plan, a second version of it. Yeah.
I'll look to Mayor McKay and Glenn, if you feel like you've had enough, or staff, they've had enough, and Mayor McKay.
If staff feel like they have enough direction to go forward and bring something back so we can keep the thing moving, then.
We'll continue, based on the feedback today, we'll continue with what's been presented, continuing to refine it, make the additions of the 3 items that are here, look at expanding on the concept of division of activities that the mayor briefly described, to see how that can play out in our tables. And then, like I said, you'll get a close to complete version in version 2, but that is yet another opportunity for council to give their feedback on the ops plan with the inclusions of what we talked about today.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. So at this time, normally 12 o'clock, we discussed that we would decide if we were going to continue. We do actually need to have a change to the agenda. We do need to go into camera before our deadline of 12:30. So I would need a motion to change the agenda that has been circulated to, instead of we're finished section 6, to go to 11. And then possibly the rest would be tomorrow night. We'll see where we finished after the in-camera. So I need a motion to actually, okay.
I would move that council move into camera
into an in-camera meeting under section 22(2) C, D, and E of the Municipal Government Act for contract negotiations, personnel matters, and labor relations.
Thank you for that. I might have to get you to read that again, though. But can I have a motion, actually, because I need the agenda changed?
Oh,
Change-
that's what you're
yes,
doing.
Yeah, so
Oh.
we need, I just need a consensus on, like, if somebody wants
We need a
to, do
motion
you want
for
to
that?
do a motion
Yeah.
to, yeah, thank you, Mayor McKay.
I would move that the agenda be changed as it was previously circulated to move section 11 to now,
Okay,
and the rest to be completed tomorrow evening.
okay, thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Okay, thank you. And all those in favor of the change?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Would you mind reading that over again, Councillor Palmer? I want to make you work today.
Yeah,
There's
you
your-
I would move that council move to an in-camera meeting under section 22(2) C, D, and E of the Municipal Government Act for contract negotiations, personnel matters, and labor relations.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Butler, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, and we are now moving in camera. Thank you.
So just as